This episode of Heavy Cardboard is brought to you from the great folks over at GameSurplus.com, bringing the world of board games to you. Now, on to the show. Heavy Cardboard, episode 102, LeiriaCon recap. Coming to you from post-rain-soaked LeiriaCon, we're back in Denver, Colorado. Welcome to Heavy Cardboard, where we talk medium and heavy strategy board games, war games, 18xx, and other related topics in the board gaming hobby. We're your hosts. I'm Edward.
I'm Amanda.
And I'm Adrian.
Hey, we have a new guest over here. All right, so Adrian, introduce yourself for folks.
So, for those of you who don't know me from the streams, I host the Mile High Game Guys podcast here in Denver. I've been playing games up here at Heavy Cardboard for probably about a year now.
Yeah, thereabouts, I'd say, yeah.
And started off kind of an omni gamer. Now I play everything. Now I follow Edward to other countries to play heavy board games.
Yeah, right. So we go halfway around the world to go play games together. You know, as you do, right?
Yeah.
So apparently all the gorgeous weather was here in Denver, because you know where it wasn't?
LeiriaCon.
Yes,
Yeah.
it wasn't
not
in Portugal.
Nope.
Anywhere. And we saw half the country, and there wasn't sunshine to be had.
I saw nice weather the Wednesday when I arrived. Because I got there Wednesday, and I rented a car and drove up to
from
the
Lisbon
convention.
or from Porto?
Yeah,
okay.
from Lisbon. And on the drive up from Lisbon, I had bright blue skies, sunshine. I was like, oh, this is going to be a great weekend.
Oh, so you took it all for yourself.
Yeah, I hogged it all for that.
Thanks.
1 hour drive. And then after that, it was just soaked.
Yeah, we flew in Wednesday night. Flight was delayed because of the snowpocalypse in London. Oh my God! They had like 2 centimeters of snow and shut down Heathrow. We were not reprimanded, but we were corrected on the proper pronunciation of Heathrow.
Yeah, it's not Heathrow, it's Heathrow.
Right, airport. So we flew in there from Denver. It was a straight shot, completely uneventful flight, which is how you like it.
Yeah.
We actually flew on a 747, which there aren't a whole lot of those
Both
left.
ways.
Yeah, both directions. Yeah. And that is a really big airplane.
Oh, yeah.
Not as big as like what did we see?
Wasn't it Qantas?
No, it was Emirates.
It wasn't. Yes.
Oh, my God. It's the biggest civilian aircraft in existence.
That was the biggest thing I have ever seen.
Yeah,
it was absolutely gigantic.
I want to say it was like an A380 or something like it. Just
I think that was it.
Big. Anyway, flew on the 747. It had a screen about 4 inches wide on the back of the seat, which was just cute because back in the day that was a thing. Now I'm like, really? That's it?
We were used to Lufthansa like having a big screen, and this is like this tiny little guy.
First world problems. I get this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So had lots of wine on the flight, and anyway, we get to Heathrow, and we land, no problem. And the pilot comes on and says, yeah, there's going to be a bit of a delay. And we're like, okay. He said, well, there's been a bunch of canceled flights and everything because of the fact that the snowpocalypse has happened. And I look out the window, and I'm not kidding you. There's snow like on the grass areas and stuff, a little bit, just a tiny little bit. But all the tarmac, all the runway, everything is completely clear. And I'm like, y'all canceled flights for this? I'm looking around, so I'm looking out my window over the wing, and we end up waiting out there for like almost 2 hours, just sitting there on the tarmac. Just, wow, really? So I tweet out a picture about it, and ITN picks it up, and I start getting DMs, hey, can we interview you? And I was like, wait, what? Why? And they just wanted to see if people were all up in arms and everything. So anyway, fast forward, we end up making it into a restaurant, and we have an English breakfast there. I got interviewed by ITN via Skype, which that was just weird. So that apparently aired in London.
Yeah, which we haven't been able to find. So if anybody saw Edward, let us know.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But no, he was like almost trying to goad me into like baiting me into saying, nasty things. And I was like, nah. People are just they're lounging around. People are laying on the floor sleeping or laying on chairs sleeping, but haven't seen any bad attitudes. What are you going to do, right?
Yep.
You're kind of a kept audience.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck.
But yeah, anyway. Yeah. So we had a 5-hour layover at Heathrow, and that became like a 2-hour, 2.5 hour layover.
It squished it pretty good.
Right. And so we ended up, long story long, getting to Lisbon. We flew in late a little bit because then leaving, had to be delayed because they had to de-ice and all this stuff, which that's legit. That I will never joke, or I will never disparage any airline or any airport that takes more time to de-ice the plane.
Right.
I've seen way too many air disaster shows. Nah, please de-ice as much as you need. That's fine. But when we were coming into Lisbon, it was like a monsoon. I mean, it was just buffeting the plane over the place.
And there wasn't any gate for them to pull up to, so we had to go downstairs to a bus.
Outside.
In a monsoon.
But you know what? Whatever. Hey, come to Portugal, they said. Yeah. The weather's great, they said.
Everybody was so funny. They kept apologizing like it was their fault.
Yeah, they were like, we made calls, we tried, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, it rained and stormed the entire time, but I don't think it negatively impacted the con in iota.
Yeah. Now, it turns out that board gaming is rarely impacted negatively by rain or snow.
Right.
Just makes it nicer. It's like, oh, look at outside. I'm real glad I'm in here.
Right. Nice and toasty and warm as we watch it pour outside. So whatever. But yeah, the weather here has been gorgeous today.
Yeah.
I had the windows open.
I know, I did too yesterday. It was crazy.
That is nuts. So I was listening to Mile High Game Guys podcast on the way home from the poker room last night because I had about an hour-long drive. And Adrian, you said something, I don't know if this was hyperbole or not, but you said it took you like 40 hours to get home.
It was about 36.
Oh my God.
From the time I left the convention to the time I arrived home was probably, actually I think it was over 36 hours. So So I left around noon from the convention in Leiria. I drove an hour back to Lisbon to to drop off my rental car. I dropped off my rental car and then had like 4 hours to kill. So I went and got some lunch out in Lisbon, kind of hung out, checked in early because I flew on 2 different itineraries. One was a round trip, Madrid to Lisbon, Lisbon to Madrid. And then the other ones were Denver to Madrid. And the Madrid to Lisbon flights, I was super VIP. So I got to go to the lounge and eat.
Fancy.
Wow. Yeah. All right.
Which the TAP Portugal, I have to say, excellent lounge service. Free beer, free wine, really good food, like nice cured meats, which we'll come back to your cured meat story.
Boy, won't we?
But yeah, like tapas, all kinds of stuff. So I went and hung out in the lounge and had wine and tapas.
I'm surprised you made it back.
Right. And then just because of the way those itineraries worked out, doing it on 2 separate itineraries, I ended up, when I flew back into Madrid that night, I landed in Madrid at like 11 p.m. local time, and my next flight didn't leave till the morning, so I checked into a hotel in Madrid, stayed in Madrid for the night, and then had flights back. So it wasn't like I was stuck in flights or in the airport for the entire time.
Okay.
Still a long evolution.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't like you were camping out underneath chairs at the airport, you know, curling up a hoodie for a pillow.
No. And the bed I stayed in Madrid, it was a little hotel in the airport.
That's
but
cool.
It was a really comfortable bed, had a nice hot shower. It was like a perfect mid-travel,
Nice.
Okay, refreshing.
I no longer feel bad for you.
It wasn't the worst. My favorite part of the travel story, though, coming home is so my Madrid flight, I flew Madrid to Atlanta, and I landed in Atlanta an hour and a half earlier than we were scheduled to.
An hour and a half?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
We had a great tailwind, I guess. I don't know.
Wow. And I've heard that Atlanta is so busy that when Jesus comes back for the second coming, he will have to go through Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Everything goes through Atlanta.
It was a madhouse. But I got in early, so I was like, hey, I'll go check and see if I can get on an earlier flight to Denver so I won't have to be getting in at like 8 p.m. I've been traveling all day. And sure enough, I got bumped up to the next flight. But all the flights into Denver were delayed like an hour to an hour and a half because Monday DIA was having like 40 to 50 mile an hour wind shears. And so they were making planes circle. Yeah.
Yeah, we felt it when we were coming in.
Yeah, that was not fun.
Yeah,
at all for me.
Amanda's really apprehensive about flying. Anyway, she's not.
I'm okay. I don't like taking off, and I don't like landing, especially if it's windy, because I don't like the jostling.
Right, yeah, turbulence. And
Yeah.
wow.
My gosh.
It was pretty bad. When we came in, because we landed at 2 in the afternoon or so, and the dust storms that were getting kicked up while we were driving, like I was having to really grip the steering wheel after we landed to drive home and everything. So the wind was really bad here,
really
so
was.
that makes sense.
Yeah, so with all those flights getting delayed, getting bumped to an earlier flight, almost an hour and a half earlier, I landed at my original scheduled landing time.
Oh, that's funny.
So, I mean, I'm so glad I got bumped because, hey, I got home the same time I was planning on.
Right, and maybe you would have gotten home later had you been on
I definitely
that, right?
would have. That flight was also way delayed, so real glad I made the jump.
All right, well, everything worked out.
Yeah.
Plus, you got to sleep in a really comfortable bed and all that. And I will say this. So on Sunday night when we left the con, and we're kind of doing all this out of order, but whatever, it doesn't matter. When we left, we actually left the convention at like 1:15 in the morning to get to the airport because we had a 7 o'clock flight, which with our apprehension of making sure we're there stupid early, we actually ended up there 3 hours before we needed to be there the 2 hours prior. So we didn't sleep that night, Sunday night, and both flights I was able to sleep.
Wow.
A fair portion of both of them, which is unheard of. So, moral of the story, either muscle relaxer and copious amounts of wine, which that doesn't help a lot, but it helps some.
Or be exhausted and sick, and you'll zone right out.
Right.
Yeah.
So speaking of sick, I don't know if you guys have heard that I'm a little bit deeper, maybe an octave or so. I got sick. But the good news is this isn't like Gen Con sick like I was last time.
Oh,
this
God,
is just
yeah.
it was just a cold. Partially probably because we didn't have heat in our hotel room for the first 2 nights.
That probably has something to do with it.
So you may hear me cough a little bit here and there, but the good news is it's just a cold. I'm already on the upswing and no big deal. So the show will go on, so no big deal there. So while we were there were 2 actually really big pieces of news that either were announced or that dropped. The one that was announced that caught everybody by surprise was the fact that Funagain is closing down all online operations as well as their fulfillment service.
Yep.
And this news dropped at dinner while we were at dinner, and you could hear like a buzz going around the different tables and everything. I mean, obviously we were there. We were there with Uli from Spielworks. We were there with What's Your Game, and they were all caught like, whoa, this is... And so it was kind of the talk of dinner one night. I can't remember if it was Friday or Saturday night when that news dropped.
I think it was Friday.
It was Friday.
It was? But yeah, so that's kind of impactful as far as the industry goes.
And it was a shock to everybody.
Nobody really knows what happened or why or anything. And I watched a thing, BGG had a little news snippet, and Eric Martin said that they declined to mention or declined to comment at this time. So there might be more news maybe at Gamma next week. So we'll see. But yeah, I know Nick, who is, I believe he's basically the managing, the person that manages. He's been my point of contact whenever I've had any interactions, and I got nothing but nice things to say about Nick. So hopefully he lands on his feet. But yeah, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was really shocking. I was talking to a Finnish board game designer who was there, and Timo, yeah, and he said that they handle all their warehousing, or Funagain used to anyway.
Yeah, right.
And he had heard that they just built a massive new warehouse a few months ago. So
yeah, things were on the uptick for them, it seemed, and then
pulled the plug.
Yeah. So there was that, and then the news we heard about on Wednesday, but we weren't allowed to talk about until Tuesday, was that What's Your Game, which is the publisher of such titles as Madeira, the award-winning Madeira, you have Asgard, you have the original Vinos, and a host of other games, Nippon, et cetera, et cetera. Well, a lot of people assumed that they were a Portuguese company, they weren't. They're the German company run by two Italians, Mariano and
Veronica.
But, well, that's since changed. They moved to Portugal.
Now they're Portuguese.
Yeah.
So now it's a Portuguese company. And on top of that, they brought on the two folks that have played a big part in their library thus far, which is Nuno Santiero and Paulo Soledad, designers of the aforementioned Madeira, Nippon, et cetera, et cetera. So their company just grew by 100%.
Yes, it did.
It went from 2 people to 4 people. I'm excited because I think this allows them the opportunity to get more games out quicker, but more importantly, at least from where I'm sitting, get back to heavier games.
Yeah.
And get away from the lighter side of things. Not to say that those are bad games, just I would like to see more Madeiras in the catalog, which is what we're hoping for kind of with Brazil.
Yes, and that's what they were talking about. I don't know if it was on the interview or just in conversations, but that it's going to be a lot easier for them to be able to, you know, talk back and forth and kind of drill down on the games and stuff if they're not having to contact each other via Skype or phone or whatever. They're just going to be right there together. So it's going to be a lot easier.
Hey, what are you doing Tuesday night? Let's work on the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of going to Germany or going to Portugal.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for Nuno and Paulo to actually be brought on and be designers for a specific company and really have a lot more of the resources they need to develop the great games that they develop.
Yeah, I see no downside here for their company, for them as designers, them as our friends, but also us as gamers.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this is only a positive, a net positive
all the way around. Yeah.
It's a win everywhere.
Yeah,
Completely
100%.
agree. Yep.
So as many of y'all know, I used to play poker professionally online back in the day until the government took it away. And I've since recently, I'd say in the last handful of months, gotten back into recreationally going up the hill here up in Blackhawk and playing some 2-5 to 100 spread limit. Anyway, I'm playing cards again. And so with that, especially with the advent of vlogging and such on YouTube, I watch a few different poker vloggers, one of which is an award-winning vlogger, actually. He just won 2 awards from the American Poker Awards, and his name's Andrew Nemi. He's what I aspire, like, to be able to do.
Yeah.
It's really, really impressive. Even if you're not into poker, just the way his production
his vlogs are incredible.
Yeah, they're really, really well done. Anyway, he has a segment that he kind of tongue-in-cheek has named Mail on the Couch, which people send him stuff, whether it's letters, whether it's postcards, whether it's gift cards, whatever it is, right? He got some, embossed golf balls, like with his thing.
His
like
catchphrase.
with his catchphrase, the flop is favorable whenever he crushes a flop or whatever. Anyway, he does Mail on the Couch. And Amanda and I were watching one of these on the way back, and he had a mountain of stuff on his couch that people had sent, whether it's whatever it is. And we were like, that's really cool. That would be cool. And not to get this stuff, just to have people write whatever, right? Because I'm sure on your show, you guys get emails, you get all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But to actually get snail mail, right? To get something through the postal service, tangible, it's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine our excitement when we arrived home on Monday, and we have some mail on the couch.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we've gotten some things previously, but we didn't really talk about them. And I think that's kind of silly. So I feel like we should talk about these things. So here we go. So it is a postcard, a very pretty black and white picture from David Dorsich. It says, Edward and Amanda, hello from California. The picture is from Montana. Thank you for all the heavy cardboard goodness you guys make. Keep up the good work. And it's a picture of Bowman Lake. So awesome. Like, dude, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to start putting this. We're going to start like a tack board, I think, and put all these things up there. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So, David, thank you very much. That's awesome. Also, today, in fact, we just got a package. We kind of know what this is, but that's okay.
But we haven't seen it. We know, in general, what it is.
So I literally cut this open before we started recording, and here we go. This is from Donna Dinger. Yes, that Dinger. The better half of Jason Dinger. Edward and Amanda. I just wanted to say thank you for hiring me to create outfits for your Davis. I know that our Davis enjoyed trying them on. If there's anything else that you guys can think of that you may want, just let me know. Here's a little something extra on top. Enjoy. Thanks, Donna. So Donna made, if you've ever watched any of our live streams, she's made the, and is it cross stitched?
It's crocheted.
It's crocheted. Thank you. Davis, who sits behind me.
And she does all of this freehand,
I
by the
know,
way.
Yeah,
right?
that's ridiculous.
It really is. Like, this is really impressive skills. So,
Aww.
so we got a Punching Cardboard podcast little hat for him to wear. That's
That's
awesome
great.
because it is winter, right? All right, so let's see. So we have these broken up. So we have January. So this says hat, scarf, snowball, and snowman.
Yes.
So, okay, it's late, but you know what? He's going to be wearing this tomorrow night. Then we have February.
It's Cupid.
It's heart, Cupid wings, and a bow and arrow. This is amazing. All right, then we have March. We have a leprechaun hat, a pot of gold, a 4-leaf clover with wire in it. This is insane, dude.
I can't wait for everybody to see all these
Hold on. Easter, which means what?
bunnies.
Yeah, bunny ears. Easter basket, green for your grass, and 3 Easter eggs. May, which is graduation month,
Oh, that's
right? So we
awesome.
have a graduation cap and diploma. This is unbelievable.
Wow.
June, we have a beach ball, a sand pail, shovel, and sun visor.
Oh my gosh.
This is
How did she do this?
Right?
This is
Jeez.
incredible.
4th of July, Uncle Sam's hat, red, white, and blue tie, fireworks with wire. It just keeps going. August, start of school. We have an apple, a book, and a black carry strap and a pencil. Wait. Hold on. There's more for June. We have Labor Day stuff, barbecue pit, flame, grill, 4 hot dogs, 4 hot dog buns, and 4 plates. Are you kidding me, dude? You may have to adjust the grill to make it stand in place. Are you
kidding me?
Halloween, a witch's hat and pumpkin. Pumpkin can also be used for Thanksgiving, which brings us to, of course, Thanksgiving.
Oh, I see a turkey.
Turkey and pilgrim hat. You can use the pumpkin from Halloween also for the setup. Which brings us to December. Christmas tree, Santa hat, Santa bag, and 2 presents.
Oh my gosh.
This is
The
amazing.
Christmas tree has ornaments.
I can't wait to start seeing the Davis
I know.
Dude,
dioramas.
I can't wait to play dress up with Davis.
So we'll have to. So tomorrow night he'll have to be with the snowman and snowball, and then Saturday he'll have to be Cupid, and then we can start
March the following
week.
Okay. Wow. So, Donna, thank you very
You're
much.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Those are great.
That is a successful first mail on the couch. We got to come up with a better name since that's Andrew's thing, but
Mail at the boardgametables.com table.
that's horrible.
I know, but it's another.
It just flows off the tongue,
Yeah.
well,
right?
Chad would think it does. Just
Fair
saying.
enough, right?
Just saying. Right open face.
All right. So the last thing we wanted to give shout outs to the 4 folks that left us iTunes reviews. It's been a while since we've talked about these. So big shout out. Thank you to Rajur, JJ Underwood, Andreas B, and Disappointed One. I'm happy to report Disappointed One says gave us 5 stars.
He wasn't
So
disappointed.
Not
He wasn't
disappointed.
disappointed. So that was a win.
Yay!
So thanks, y'all. Big thank you to our sponsor, BoardGameTables.com. If you're in the market for a customized, one-of-a-kind board game table, go check them out, BoardGameTables.com. Normally we'd go into what we've been playing, but that's kind of what this entire episode's about.
Right.
So I figure we'll cover that.
We'll just skip that
Yeah,
part.
we'll skip that. As far as acquisitions, going through this, we had a pretty extensive list since the last episode here. So we bought some games from the secondhand little
Like
flea market kind of swap meet.
Just little table in front.
at LeiriaCon. Had a second edition of High Frontier, going to be a really nice giveaway. Metropolis, because our box was totally trashed. So the totally trash box with a totally playable, perfect condition game, that's probably going to be a giveaway later on. And I don't know how to pronounce this correctly. I don't know if it's Koj or Kogi, Kogge. I've heard a few folks in the guild previously talk about
Probably
the game.
Koga.
Or maybe Koga. But it was super cheap, and I was like, yes, I would like a copy of that. Then there was a copy of Fresh Fish, but that was kind of a big box, and that was actually Nuno's copy of Fresh Fish. And I was like, yeah, it's too big a box. He said, here, take it home with you. I was like, no, no. And so he insisted. So I told him, okay, I'm only willing to take it if we can give it away this episode. So we're going to do that. So if you go to heavycardboard.com/freshfish, fill out the form there, and we'll do the drawing when in 2 weeks from now. So heavycardboard.com/freshfish. It's the second edition, long, skinny, green box from Friedman Freeze. So there's that. Vital asked us, hey, if you would like my copy of CO2, the second chance, then you can have it, but I don't want you to have to take it. And I looked at him like, really? No, I don't want. What? He's like, no, it's not like I'm giving you a free game. Like I'm giving you work. He says, I don't design games for free. He says, I wouldn't expect the same from you. And I was like, shut up. We'll play it and we'll definitely review it, and we'll see about a playthrough.
Yeah, makes sense.
So yay, got that.
That's amazing.
You didn't get a chance to play that there,
No,
did you?
I didn't.
And actually,
I didn't see CO2 there at all.
I
think
didn't
he was
either.
just playing Escape Plan.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So, all
Over
right.
in the corner, he said he played the same game 13 times.
I don't know how you do that, dude.
He got real excited at one point. He was talking to some people near me while I was finishing up a game, and somebody broke Escape Plan, and he was so excited that somebody broke his game, and he had to go fix it. And I was like, that takes a different mindset to actually get excited when something you've put a lot of work and effort into is they expose something wrong with it, and then you get to fix that.
Well, it's better now than down the road,
Truly,
right?
yeah, that makes sense from that perspective. But still, to see how excited he was that somebody actually broke it was interesting.
Good on him, right? So, a few others. Perdition's Mouth, Abyssal Rift. This is one that I didn't expect to get foisted upon or have handed to us.
Nah, foisted, really.
So Timo, the aforementioned Finnish designer, he had reached out to us previously about this and potential expansion, a number of months ago, and I didn't expect to see him at LeiriaCon.
Right.
And on Sunday night, after we're all packed up, he's like, here's this giant box. Please take it and see if you like it. If you like it, talk about it on the show.
And you had left the game that you were playing, and I had filled in for you right then. And you were interviewing someone, and I was sitting there and saw this big box be given to you. And Veronica and I looked at each other at the same time. She's like, that's 7 kilos.
Because weight matters, right? You
Yeah.
only allow 23 kilos in a
Carry-on or a bag.
in a checked bag. So yeah. Anyway, thank you, Timo, for that, and we will get it to the table.
Yeah.
We'll see. I told him I was real apprehensive whether or not it was going to be up our alley. Dungeon crawl and co-op, 2 things we are not super keen on, but you know what? I'll give it a try.
If a Viking-looking man from Finland that has driven to Portugal hands you a game, you kind of have to take it.
If you're any good at geography, figure that one out. Dude drove. Him and his family are doing a year's tour of conventions around Europe, and they had just come from cons, and they drove from Finland to Port. That's a hell of a drive.
Yeah.
Wow. Because you're taking a long way around the water there.
Yeah.
That's crazy, but sounds exciting.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Perdition's Mouth, Abyssal Rift, we got the folks over at Corax Games handed us Half Pint Heroes, which is kind of a take-that trick-taking game. In your face type. It has kind of whimsical art we'll see. It looks like a simple little trick-taking game. I don't know. And then we also got sent Sakura from Osprey Games and the aforementioned, well, now you heard about the outfits for Davis. So, yeah, that's what all we've gotten for the last couple of weeks. Anything on your end?
Yeah, so I actually just today got a message from a friend of mine from our local gaming group. Yesterday was my birthday, and
Happy belated birthday!
thank you.
Actually, yeah, I wished you a happy
You did.
birthday on Twitter, but yeah, happy birthday,
Thank
man.
you.
How old are you now?
33.
All right, young pup.
Yep. So, so he had messaged me on Facebook. He's like, "Hey, happy birthday! Like, what's a game that you have been looking for that you've been wanting to get?" And I was like, "Well,
1817.
I didn't go quite that extreme, but I did go, well, I missed out on the 3rd edition of Antiquity." And he said, "Done, got it for you. It'll be here in a couple weeks." So
Awesome. Yay.
Awesome.
All right.
So
You can get
I got
Edward
that
to punch
coming.
it. It'll take him like 3 days.
Right? I saw that he was really good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh boy, I got well versed, let me tell you.
Other than that, I also picked up on a sale through, might have been Game Surplus. I can't remember. But
I support this.
I got the other Splotter game, Great Zimbabwe. So my
Awesome.
Splotter collection just doubled in like the last 2 weeks.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Those are two, I would argue, two of their best,
Yes.
if not the best. But you can make that argument with a number of them. But yeah, awesome. Congrats,
So
dude.
very excited about that.
Good stuff. Anything you're shopping for now, though, or kind of on the anticipation list?
Well, I'm still eagerly awaiting the arrival of both Feudum and Brass Kickstarters, which Feudum just shipped, I believe, and
Yeah,
Brass should be shipping.
I actually just heard people on Twitter today getting their shipping notices about Feudum.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm eagerly awaiting those two, and otherwise I'm not really actively searching for anything else right now. I'm kind of in a nice little coasting phase.
That's kind of where we are as well. I mean, there's a bunch of Kickstarters that we're going to be talking about that are going to be starting up, so looking forward to those. But I'm also looking forward to the Brass Kickstarter
too.
fulfillment.
Yeah.
We've had the prototypes, but with those being about 25% darker,
I'm excited to see the production. Yeah.
and the iron clays.
The iron clays are going to be great.
The poker chips.
Yeah.
So
So excited.
I mean, pretty stoked to see how those turned out.
For sure.
As far as looking forward to playing, as you guys are going to hear shortly, a lot of Asgard.
Yes.
A lot early and often, yes please.
Mm-hmm.
And also this weekend we're going to be playing Bora Bora and the Gallerist, which are two games that haven't hit the table in forever, approximately. And I'm looking forward to playing
And
all those.
I have not played the Gallerist since we tested the prototype at BGGCon about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. Paul Linkow.
geez.
That's where we met Paul Linkow, the developer.
Yeah.
It
And
was just, I mean, it was a
It was
prototype.
paper.
It was paper.
And it was, yeah. That, and we were trying to learn that in the main hall at our first BGG con, and wow, that's been a long time.
Yeah,
so
3 or
that should
4
be
years ago,
really,
yeah.
that should be an interesting stream on Saturday. And Adrian, you're going to be with us on
Yeah.
that.
And I was going to say, I'm really excited for that. Gallerist is one of my favorite of Vital's games. That big box edition is just, that was my first one of his I got and got to play. And it was like, oh my gosh, it was
Nice.
amazing. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting to do a stream of it.
Cool. Good deal. So we'll have you and Matt being the more experienced players on
And
that.
the Eulers.
And the Eulers less so. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be cool. How about
Yeah.
you? Anything you're stoked to be playing?
No, that's pretty much the main thing I'm looking forward to right now. We're getting ready. Next week we'll be reviewing on the show the Harry Potter deck builder Hogwarts Battle. Megan and I love that as a 2-player, just sit around and just play together.
Is there anything you can compare it to, like weight wise? Like, is it, with it being a deck builder, is it kind of Dominion-esque or?
Yeah, it's definitely it's similar to Dominion. It's got a trench more like your listeners might not be as familiar. Some of them will be, but like legendary encounters.
Okay.
The
I'm familiar with the game. Yeah.
yeah. So the trench, the cards you can buy, instead of being all of them available in their different piles, they come out as you buy them. So they change a little bit. But the actual gameplay of like fighting the enemies and how they work, there's really nothing else that's quite like it. It's pretty light. As you progress through them, like each year you add more and more enemies and spells and things like that, so it gets more complex. Year one is like, I'd put it like a 1 on the BGG scale. It's so light. It's meant for like, you've never played any board games ever. Here, let us teach you a deck builder
wow.
from the
Okay.
ground up.
Oh, okay. All right.
But by the time you get to year 7, then it's actually a fully fleshed out game, and it was actually tough. Like Megan and I really came close to losing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's fully cooperative then?
Yes, fully cooperative.
Yeah, Ash and his girlfriend Amanda were late to Thanksgiving dinner because she had to finish another year of this game. So we've heard about it from her. So
Okay, cool. Good stuff.
I didn't get to play Asgard because
That's right. You were just watching because you were recovering.
Yeah, from my who knows what happened. So I'm looking forward to actually playing that.
I've told the story a couple times that our trip to LeiriaCon originally started 2 years ago when I was at the What's Your Game booth at Essen, and I asked Nuno and Polo, hey, when are you guys coming to HeavyCon? They said, well, when are you coming to LeiriaCon? I said, so if I come, you'll come? They said, yep. I said, done. And they said, you'll come next year? I said, no, 2018. Well, fellas, man of my word. And actually, that was the very first thing they said. Said, yep, you are a man of your word. Here you are. So LeiriaCon is about 60 to 75 minutes north of Lisbon in Portugal. It's actually not in the town of Leiria. Do you know the actual name of the town?
It's Vieira de Leiria.
Oh God!
So for Vieira de Leiria.
Okay.
And so it's a little small resort town out on the coast that's about 20 minutes outside of Leiria.
Okay, there we go. So it's literally on the coast. The hotel where it is named...
Hotel Cristal Resort?
Yes.
Yeah, the Cristal Hotel. And it's literally across the street from Virginia and New York. Because literally there is only one street between you and the Atlantic Ocean. And
It's right there.
yeah, so that was really cool. So the con took place, originally it was taking place, I think this was the 12th year of the convention.
I think that's what they said.
Yeah, 12th or 13th, something like that.
And it's growing, obviously, since, I mean, we had a whole lot of international folks there. And it took place, this was the first year that they did a 4-day convention. So it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday ended at 6 p.m., which a lot of conventions tend to shut down early on Sundays. And yeah, it's hosted by the Spiel Portugal guys, which is a group, it's a game group, essentially, that Nuno, Paulo, there's Andre,
Bruno.
there's Rôla, there's Bruno,
There's Costa.
There's Costa. All these guys that basically it's a lot. Honestly,
It's HeavyCon and
it really
Portugal.
reminded me a whole lot of HeavyCon.
Yeah.
So except theirs is bigger. So what would you say? About 400 people or so?
I think they told me 600.
600 over the course of all 4 days.
Yeah, because we never really went into the upstairs rooms, and on Saturday those were packed.
Yeah, so there's one main gaming area, which is kind of in the main room, and even that room is not big. There's maybe 20 tables, I would say, at most.
Something around there, yeah.
And then there's a second floor, which has about that many, give or take, and then a third floor that has about that many. And it's attached to part of the hotel rooms, which our room was up there on the third floor, and there was nothing but a little like tarp
a circus.
type.
It looks like a circus tent.
It really did, but it wasn't completely sealed off. So from our room, you could hear there was gaming taking place.
Yep.
And I mean this in the best way possible.
Yeah,
It
just
was really, really cool.
that dull roar of games being played. And what was really funny was the floors, whenever you would pull back in your chair, it would make this really loud, like terrible sounding noise, but that was just constant. It was just like you just got used to it because it was just constantly people moving and getting up and getting down and stuff.
And so our room was in that kind of main building.
Yeah. I was back around in the actual main tall hotel area. So my room it faced north, but I had a great view from my little balcony of the ocean, and like New York was just right there. But and then it had a pretty good view out the back of the kind of almost creepy because it was the off season, so the water park was abandoned, but there's a water park there, and it had this eerie, like, abandoned, empty vibe, like half-filled pools.
Weird.
In out the back of our room, you could open the window, and it was kind of an alley thing, but actually in between two buildings, there's the ocean. So that was really cool, and you have the ocean breeze.
It was so
and
nice.
by breeze, I mean stiff wind because of the storms.
Yeah, but it was still so nice.
That was pretty awesome. That was really, really cool. And then they have these like little resort villas.
Yeah, they're
or like bungalows.
Like, but yeah, like they had like little picket fences in front of them and everything.
All in very vibrant colors.
Yep, reds and blues.
Yeah,
and
yellows.
Greens. It was beautiful. It really was. Even with the weather being crap, it was still beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Through there. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, the coolest thing about the entire convention, which this is really trivial, but it was just one of those really cool details that they didn't have to do that really tied everything together, was they had this signposts out there. And the signpost had a list of every city where somebody was coming from that was international. So you had Iserlohn for Uli. You had Nuent, I think is how you say it, maybe, for where Tony Boydell in the UK. They had Epsom, where Nick Case, designer of the sagas and Nag and the Nog, comes from. And I was like, huh, is that where the salts come from? He was like, exactly, yes. And I saw all these, and I was like, oh, man, I wish they had a Denver. That was cool. Walk around to the other side.
Oh, there it is.
There's one for Denver. That was really, really cool. And it had the distance from where the convention was to the cities.
And they were all stuck on the signpost in the correct direction. So Nuno was like, if you just go this direction, just keep walking for a really long time, you'll hit Denver.
Right? Or swim long ways. And we were actually the second furthest folks, everybody here, since the Denver contingent is all here.
Right.
And they had us all sign our signposts, which was really cool. The only one that was further was Christian and his wife, and I can't remember her name, but from Brazil.
Yep.
And they beat us by something like 119 kilometers, which that's still really far. And to me, I would expect that to have been further than Denver. I don't know why. Maybe because they're on the east coast of Brazil. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, that was just a really cool, nice little touch.
It was.
Yeah, no, it was great.
So as a part of getting a hotel room there, it was kind of a all-in-one inclusive resort thing, meaning you're there when you get your badge, you're paying for your hotel room, and then you get your the meals included. And for us, the priorities were in this order: the people, the wine, the food, the games. And the food and the wine were in copious amounts.
Yeah.
Every meal.
Yes.
So the meals were included with your hotel and everything, and they were all done buffet style. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But the wine was there, just bottles, just
For lunch and dinner, yep.
grab as many bottles as you want, and don't worry, we'll pour more.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was unlike anything I've experienced before.
Yeah, same here. They also had right there 2 taps with 2 Portuguese beers. There was like a light lager and then like a Bohemian ale that were both really, I was surprised for being like mass market, like countrywide beers. You know, when I think of that, I think of like Budweiser here in America.
Sure, right.
You know? And so I was really impressed. They were really good beers, and the wine was fantastic too.
And it was on tap, the beers. So literally, you go
Self-serve.
up and, self-serve. Just like the wine, and it was crazy. I drank a lot of wine because I wanted to honor the Portuguese while I was there and not disrespect their country.
Of course.
And I mean, it wasn't high-end wine, but it was something that you would expect to spend probably $15 a bottle for.
Yeah.
Here in the States, a good red table wine, and the white wine was really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was really, really cool. And the food was amazing for it being, buffets, which, you kind of temper your anticipation for the food. Like when I go to a buffet, I don't expect it to be the same as if I go to a nice steakhouse or something like that.
But it was really good food. A lot of seafood, of course, and just it was really good. Really good.
It was all done fantastically.
Tons of different types of bread, a huge variety of salads and little like side dishes and stuff.
And breads and
desserts.
Yeah, and fruit and
Oh,
just
and the fresh
everything.
fruit was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yep, I could.
You can
as
have
always, I
bananas.
could eat bananas. Yeah.
So you have this weird allergy
Yeah.
thing for bananas here in the States.
And a lot of other fruits and a few vegetables. Yeah,
Oh,
something.
that's such a bummer.
And it's almost got to be some kind of something that they apply after the fact, or like, because it doesn't make sense. Like bananas pretty much all come from Central America. So like a banana, like the bananas in Portugal came from Costa Rica, which
Right.
I got to assume most of the bananas here in the States come from Costa Rica, Guatemala, stuff like that. So I wouldn't think that it would be different, but
Right.
there's something that's different. To where,
Treated in some way.
Yeah.
So, and you were able to indulge.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite. One of my favorite things about traveling internationally is like, oh, I get to eat bananas again.
Hey, it's the small things in life,
Yeah.
right?
And he was so excited about eating this banana. I was like, why are you so excited?
So you mentioned the desserts. So they have desserts for every meal and a lot of different ones. But the one that we need to highlight, right, is like the kind of national dessert of Portugal, which is the pastel de nata. And it's basically a little custard pastry,
Which
right?
I was
in like a
disappoint-
phyllo dough.
I was disappointed. They only had it the one night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The night we got there, and
Yeah.
that was it. And I was so disappointed because
Yeah.
that stuff was amazing.
Yes, it was so good.
Really good. Like, yeah, just the seafood was great. The meals were great. The wine was fantastic. And yeah, so A+ on the food
Oh, yeah.
and the hospitality and the service at the hotel was amazing.
Everybody was really nice, and
The only thing that really sucked really bad was the coffee.
oh, it was awful.
See, I didn't mind the coffee. It was bitter, like it was strong. But
The coffee that we had at the gas station with Andre
On the way to
Lisbon
Lisbon to get back to
Was-
fly home.
light years better.
Well, now everything there is basically espresso, right?
Yeah.
So it comes in a little, one
Little-
sip
yeah.
shot or one sip shot.
Yeah.
And oh my.
But it was like Dana calls this really, really strong coffee that Matt got one time, chest hair and tires. And that was like chest hair on tires on steroids. It was like you could have just like poured it out and it would just come out in globs. Like
Yeah,
not
it
really,
was-
but it was
it was
so
thick.
thick
It
and
was-
strong and just bleh.
Yeah, not a fan. I drank a lot of tea.
I did too near the end because I was like, yeah, I'm done with the coffee. I'm just gonna have some tea.
no, I had no problems with the coffee. I mean, granted, like I first learned to really drink coffee in the Navy, drinking like the swill they had on submarines. So my standards for good coffee were set just ground floor.
Yeah.
So is it black? Does it have caffeine? I will drink it
Yep.
and it'll be fine.
Yes.
So, all right, so be it. So before we get into the actual games of the convention and everything, talk about the trip home. So Dana's birthday was last weekend, and we knew we were going to miss it. So we wanted to bring home some treats, some sort of present for Dana, as well as for your friend at work who takes very good care
Yes,
of you.
she bought me and you both, and she brought me and you both compression socks for the plane because she was very worried about my legs.
Which is adorable.
She's so sweet.
So when we were at the airport in Lisbon, when you're going to the gates, I found this really interesting. They make you walk through the duty-free store. I thought that was kind of obnoxious and really smart.
Yeah, that's the first airport international one that I've been in that you had to walk through duty free. It felt like IKEA, like you had to go through
Right,
everything.
and it's like
It
a
was
little
all-
maze
yeah.
through there, right? And so you're looking at all the, high-end liquor and all this stuff. And then we were like, oh, look, cured meats. Dana would like that. Anne would like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we bought about $70 or about 50 euros, give or take, of cured meats to be able to bring home and everything.
pasta de nata.
And some pasta de nata. So, no problem. It's all sealed. It's all, vacuum sealed and everything. We're like, yeah, this will be no problem. Okay. So we declare it on our customs. We do everything right. And dude's like, yeah, sorry, nope, can't bring that into the country. We're like, wait, what? Why? And they said, no, unless it's in a glass container or in a can. Nope. So he told us this with a straight face, saying, yeah, we're gonna incinerate all of this tonight.
Yeah,
bullshit.
You'll incinerate what you don't eat.
Right.
Yeah.
They were eating really good.
Yeah, that was sitting back there in the customs break room there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it doesn't leave this table. And, oh, man, I was so angry. So imagine exhausted, hungry,
Sick.
and sick. Edward, customs got an earful from me.
They did, but the last time we came through customs, a woman was trying to bring seeds home, and she lost her. She was screaming and had to be like physically picked up and taken out of customs. So you weren't that bad.
So I was nowhere near that. I mean, I was just
she
like...
was just screaming about her seeds. Oh my God.
She was animated, let's put it that way.
And you should know seeds aren't allowed.
Right.
Like cured meats in a sealed package.
Yeah, it like vacuum seal. Like this isn't like half eaten on the plane or something. And I just, I was unpleased.
Yeah.
And there may have been a couple of F-bombs dropped here or there. Maybe it wasn't my highlight moment.
The customs guy was just like, sorry. Like he's, I'm sure, so used to being talked to like that. He was like, okay, well.
Yeah.
Right there's where you go to leave. Yeah,
and then he showed us this huge bin full. He said this was what was from the last flight. And I'm like, why do they not mention this to you? And so, so for anyone traveling outside the States or coming to the States,
don't bring any of that stuff.
Yeah.
He said you can bring in, he said, we have a lot of people bring in canned sausage from Germany.
Right. Or cheeses. Cheeses are good. Hard cheeses.
Yeah, he was trying to make it, he was like, you like cheese? Do you like cheese? You can bring all the cheese in you want.
I didn't just drop $70 and lit it on fire. Thanks. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on. All right. So some of the highlights for me, and feel free to chime in here, guys, from LeiriaCon. So, getting the heat working in our room.
Yes.
Because the weather was so stormy and everything, the temperatures dropped down into low 40s, I would say, maybe upper 30s even at night. And we didn't have heat the first 2 nights. We were like, it's not going to be a big deal. Yep, it was a really big deal.
See, I think it's funny you guys mention that because like every night there I had my sliding glass door to my porch thing wide open. I love the cold. I sleep so well when it's cold.
We were like teeth chattering.
Yeah, like literally like
it's crazy.
Like Rochambeauing to see who has to get up to turn the lights off type thing. And
like we'll just leave them on. It's fine.
So anyway, okay. Seriously though, our playtest of Primus, which we're going to be talking about here in a little bit, had a bit of an intimidating audience, but it was an amazing audience. So it was me and Amanda playing alongside Paulo Soledad and Stefan Stedler, who he is the designer of Cuba and Pillars of the Earth, and he now works for Gerdts. So there's the 4 of us playing this prototype. Then there's Mariano and Veronica from What's Your Game, who are the publishers. Then Rôla and Costa were the designers. They were there. And then just for good measure, Marcus and Inca Brand of, the Exit series, Village, Rajas of the Ganges, those designers, Spiel des Jahres winners, they're just hanging out watching us play it,
too. No pressure.
And on top of that, and I think they were kidding when they said this.
I don't think they were. They can't hide. They can't hide lying very well.
They were like, yeah, so if this playtest doesn't go well, we might just scrap the game and start over. Oh, no pressure. But yeah, seriously, that was one of the cooler moments. Just that room of people, like, this is wow.
And one of my favorite parts of playing the game was when Veronica and Mariano would disagree on a rule and start screaming at each other in Italian.
Because it's a prototype, it's a playtest, so they're still developing, obviously.
It was funny
hearing those two. It was not playfully, not anything ugly or anything, but it was pretty hysterical.
Yes, it was.
Listening to them and just listening to them go back and forth in Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw there was a picture you posted on Twitter of that playtest, and I was looking at that and I was like, yeah, that's a lot of names right there.
Right? Seriously, that was just one of those pinch me moments. Like, this is really kind of surreal. That was really, really cool. And one of the other highlights for me was the final night. And I usually find this is the case during conventions because usually after any major convention, everyone's just so exhausted and whatnot. You go out, you have a dinner as a group. It's a very long dinner. It's, anywhere between 3 and 6 hours. Like the dinner turns into drinking and, just hanging out and whatever, dinner with friends. But along with that, the convention was closed. Adrian had already left for the airport, and everyone was gone except for essentially 3 tables of folks, and one of which was us being taught Asgard by Mariano and Veronica, and playing with them and Matthias Naj of Frosted Games. And so they were teaching me this game. Amanda was hanging out because she was getting over her horrible migraine, and Uli was making notes in his notepad, going over stuff that he was doing and singing the Isolorn Rooster fight song and just hanging out. And it was just totally laid back.
Yeah.
Everybody having beers or glasses of wine. Matt Gerdts was over there with Concordia, and then the guys from Korax Games were hanging out playing a game over there. And it was just 3 small little tables, and it was... The lights were kind of dimmed, and it was just...
That's one of my... Yeah, like you said, that's one of my favorite parts. And my... Not LeiriaCon, but my favorite thing ever is when the doors close at Essen.
At the very end on Sunday?
Yeah, the lights go down, and there is a huge, wow! Like, everybody's so excited that it's over. That is the coolest thing, because it's just you can tell how much work has gone into that whole that weekend, and they're just also happy that it's over. It like gives you chills because it's so cool. But
and it was kind of similar in this, but it was so much more laid back that it wasn't. I mean, obviously it was a ton of work for the Spiel Portugal guys. There's no doubt those guys went above and beyond. But there wasn't a huge hubbub and hustle about it. But it was oh God, now we got to pack up the entire library and do all that.
And what was really funny is I think Veronica wanted Charterstone, and so they bought it, but Mariano asked them to keep it up the front. And Andre came in and he was like, I have packed and unpacked this game 3 times. Will you please take this away?
So yeah, the hospitality of everybody there. We've been told that the Portuguese were some of the most welcoming and warm people in the world.
Yes.
I see no reason to say that is not true.
No.
Everybody we met was amazing the entire weekend.
Yeah, that was definitely my experience. Like, even aside from the con, traveling, like the people at the rental car booth, at the airport, at the gas station, everywhere, they were just incredibly friendly, incredibly helpful, especially for a dumb American who doesn't know a lick of Portuguese.
Obrigado.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned that real quick.
And then just everybody at the convention was awesome. It was a very, kind of what I keep saying, it was really laid back atmosphere, where for me especially, like, I got there Wednesday and had dinner with you guys a little bit there, and then Thursday, you guys introduced me to some people, started playing some games, and then like all of that leads to this point where I'm sitting there Saturday night, I'm leaving the next day, and I'm sitting there Saturday night, and I have Marcus and Inca Brand, Nuno, Paulo, Stefan, the Timo, like 10 different people from a variety of different groups all around Europe, major designers, people whose games I've loved, who are sitting there and singing my name to me to the theme of In the Navy. And I'm just like, in my back of my mind, I'm like, how is this even real life? Like, when do I wake up? Like, am I like...
That's really cool, dude.
That's awesome.
And
the ambassador of gaming now.
You are.
Apparently, yes. Uli has dubbed me ambassador of board gaming. So
yeah, ultimately, it's about the people for us.
Yeah.
But 4th on that list was the game. So we're about an hour in. I suppose we ought to, talk games a little bit here. So I spent the entire convention punching Antiquity.
Yes,
that
you
was
did.
my experience.
Yeah.
No, on a serious note, I asked on Thursday early in the morning, because the con doesn't technically open till 3 p.m., is there anything I can do to help set up or whatever? And they had me starting to roll these little giveaway sheets, and I am not good at rolling papers, apparently, and I was an abject disaster about that. So instead, Paulo said, here, this game, handed me an unopened box of Antiquity and said, here, go punch this, will you? Sure, I'll see you tomorrow. So no, it took me about 90 minutes to punch it and sort it and everything, bag it up, whatever. But Uli saw that, and they were playing Yangtze on the table next to it, and he took a picture. He says, "I'm going to post this every day of the convention."
And he did.
I said, "Yes, please do." I think it's hysterical.
I think it was Monday. He was like, no, it was Sunday. He was like, Edward's almost done.
Yeah. So that was my start to the convention. But then the very first game that I played was there was 4 of us. It was me and Adrian and a couple of the Portuguese guys, one of which I finally got a chance to meet, which was Bruno, and Paulo was also there, Paulo Renato. And we were like, okay, what do you guys want to play? Then we played the what do we want to play game, which is my least favorite game of all time. But finally we settled on Caylus. Bruno said he hadn't played it in forever, and Paulo's never played it.
And I had never played it.
So I was like, all right, cool. So I said, all right, I'll teach you guys. So I pulled up on my phone the video of the playthrough of the teaching of Caylus, hit play, said, here you go. After that, got a couple of laughs. I taught the game, and then we got playing it. So what were your thoughts on Caylus? So Caylus, designed by William Attia and published by about 14 different publishers, one of the grandfathers of the worker placement game.
Yeah.
Mechanism.
Yeah, so going into it, like, I'd heard it was really good for a long time, and a couple months ago when we were up here for a game day, I don't remember what I was playing, but Megan played Caylus with Matt, and I think Brian and somebody else, but she wasn't super impressed. She was like, yeah, like, not super my speed, and I remember Matt saying that had been a very nice game. It was like the nicest game he'd ever played of Caylus.
Oh, the Provost wasn't used a whole lot, right?
And so I wasn't sure. Like, Megan's tastes align pretty strongly with mine most of the time, so I wasn't sure. But hey, I'll play anything once. And like I said, I've heard enough other great things that I was down to give it a shot. And wow, it delivered. It was right out the gate mean. Like Bruno immediately first turn Provost, moving it as far back as he could. And it was just constantly a battle of like, who's going to get screwed by this guy moving back and forth.
And it's not just the actual screwage in the game. It's the threat of the screwage, of being able to, if you place one of your workers and you pay your 1 coin to place your worker there for the ability to move the Provost. Mm-hmm. You might not, but you might. And so that dictates, that puts pressure on everybody else on how close to the Provost do you really want to move, because if Bruno, in this case, decides to move him back, well, you're not going to be able to take that action unless you're paying. And depending on where you are in the turn order, you might not be able to move him back. And so now you just wasted more money and more actions to do exactly nothing.
Yay.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then you're right, the threat of it was huge, especially like as the game went on and it became clear that it was a very mean game of it, where we were being very active with using the Provost to take away actions from people. You started seeing like a 2 to 3 space buffer around that guy where nobody would even go. And so then they'd do the action and move him back 3, and then people would still pay money to move him back even further. It got cutthroat.
It was nasty. It was a really, really nasty game.
So that's how Caylus should be played.
Exactly. So
it's no fun if everybody's nice to each other.
I agreed, and it loses something.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's the case. So I'm glad that wasn't the case in your first introduction to it. Then after that, I played Metropolis or Metropolis, designed by Sebastian Pochon and published by Astari Games. We've talked about this a number of times over the course of the years on the show. Mm-hmm. One of the ugliest boards in existence, and one of the coolest, simple kind of bidding auction games. Area majority as well. Just a really, really clever game. And I played this with the Romanian contingent. I played this with Lucien and Tudor.
Yes.
And taught that to them. And it was funny. All the rules were in German, and I don't read German at all. 9. And so Tudor was like, yeah, I could make them out, because I knew the game, but there were little like, do we close off an area with less than 4 players and this type thing and whatever. And so he was helping me get through that. So that was useful. That went really well, and that was both of their first game. And I told them that when we did our live stream of it, we played with the hidden towers, the values on the towers being hidden. Yeah. And come to find out that no, it's supposed to be open information. So I told them that, and Lucien was like, No, I kind of like the idea of being able to bluff and everything with the hidden one. So we played it with a hidden, which I think is totally fine.
That just seems like better to me.
Yeah, I do too. Have you ever played that yet?
No.
We need to remedy that, Adrian.
Yes.
So what was y'all's... Well, was Kalis your first game as well?
Yeah, Kalis was my first game, and then I don't think I played anything else that day, because I think Thursday Kalis might have been the only thing I played, because we didn't play Noggin the Nog until Friday, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
The first game I played was called Editing Episode 101.
Okay, right.
And Taking a Nap.
Okay, all right, easy enough.
Yep.
Then Amanda did end up joining me and the Romanian contingent again for Asgur Graneludes and Lotta Pellets, Flamme Rouge, which I'd heard some things about the game. It's the cycling game. Like if you're a fan of competitive cycling, like this would be a good game for you. And so I wasn't really super excited about it, but I knew it was a later game, so I was like, sure. I was pretty worn out at this point.
It's pretty late.
First day being in the country there. And come to find out, I actually really, really enjoyed this game.
I mean, there's nothing, groundbreaking there. It's a racing game, but it's fun. We were doing silly French accents and and they
got worse as the game and more dramatic as the game went on.
Absolutely, and it was just fun. It was a fun con game.
Yeah, I haven't played that one either. I know.
Really?
No,
I guess I can't say anything because until last Thursday I hadn't played it either. But basically what it is you have two cyclists. So we had a 4-player game, so there were 8 cyclists on the board. And one is, and I can't remember, one's the sprinter and one is kind of the pack rider.
Which I feel like is kind of like the tortoise and the hare. That's how I thought about them.
Yeah, that kind of fits. And what you would do is you would draw a number of cards, and I can't remember how many, I think it was 4. You would draw 4 cards of, say, your sprinter. And out of those have values that range from, I don't know, like 2 to 8 on them, and that's how many spaces they would move forward. Well, whatever one you choose, you set aside, you turn the other's face up at the bottom of your deck. Then after you've done that for one of your riders, you do it for the other one. And then once everyone is chosen, you in order, from the front of the pack to the back, you flip it over and you advance that many spaces. And then there's a drafting mechanic where, if somebody's a couple of spaces behind, they'll catch up a little bit and this and that. And there's a little bit more strategy here than you would think. And we didn't play with any mountains or anything like that. And Asgur, when he saw the tweet on Twitter, he's like, "What? You're heavy cardboard. You should have at least had some mountains in there." I said, it was just our first game. But even so, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to. I thought it was going to be a complete and total game.
It was fun.
I really enjoyed it. It's not something that's ever going to be, something that you're going to center a game day on here. But I would think that if you add in the mountains or whatever, I think that would be pretty cool. Kind of reminded me to a more simplified version of a
Thunder
Alley or something like that.
Okay.
Except the thing that this does better than Thunder Alley is the ending of the race. Whereas in Thunder Alley, first one across the line doesn't matter. Even though it's all happening simultaneous, right? Whoever crosses the finish line first wins. Whereas this, it's simultaneous, so everybody gets the finish, and then whoever finished further past the finish line wins the race.
Like I passed finish first, but Luchin went farther, so he won.
Right, and that's how it should be, because it's all simultaneous. And that's my one gripe about Thunder Road, or Thunder Alley. But Flamme Rouge got it right, in my opinion. So yeah, really, really enjoyed that.
Cool.
And so overall, you did too?
Yeah, I did.
Cool. So that was our Thursday. Now, I don't necessarily want to do this chronologically because we got a whole bunch of games to go through here. Did you play anything else that wasn't a prototype?
No.
All right, so just me, and that was Asgard. So I'm not going to belabor this too much because you guys are going to hear quite a bit about this in the coming weeks. But designed by Pierluca Zizi and published by What's Your Game? So this game came out in 2012, which was right before we actually entered the hobby. And I had heard some really not good things about this game, that people didn't like the way the game ended, this and that, whatever. And it didn't sell well for What's Your Game from what we've heard. And I think that's such a bummer. I think it was ahead of its time. I really thoroughly enjoyed this game. Way more than I ever thought I would. Long story short, game's 5 rounds long. The 5 rounds, though, are completely disjointed from the way the end game works. So if you've ever played something like Steel Driver by Martin Wallace, to where you're laying rails and everything during the whole meat of the game, but at the end of the game, it turns into a set collection game that had nothing to do with the actual game itself. But you have to know that going in, so you're setting yourself up to be in good position for that. It's very similar here in that it's a really clever action selection game with a whole lot of screwage in this, and a bit of a game of chicken on who's going to take the first action on certain areas. And it was just really, really good after being set up by reading so much how many people did not like this aspect of the way the game kind of flips, and the end game battles have very little to do with the game itself. The game was just preparing you to be able to do the majority scoring at the end of the game. Really enjoyed it. And so we're going to be doing a live stream, and we're going to be reviewing the game sooner rather than later.
Cool.
So the artwork is it's a fantastical game. It's Ragnarok and kind of a Norse mythology setting to it. And the artwork also done by Mariano Iannelli, who again is the developer for What's Your Game. He does all their artwork. Yeah. It's completely different than all the other games and what they look like.
I like it, though. He did a really good job.
Yeah, I thought so, too. And the game played really, really well. And everybody had played it before. Obviously, Mariano and Veronica had played it. And Matthias, he actually, I believe, helped with the game. He was a big fan of the game, and he was super excited to get it back to the table. So me going up against 3 sharks here, I had no chance, especially until you experience the in-game stuff. There's no amount of explanation that's going to prepare you for that, which is going to make a real challenging teach for the live stream. Yeah. I think I might actually just briefly go over that and then be like, you'll see what I mean. We'll explain that more later. But yeah, I know for a while it was available for like $10 online, various places. I know that What's Your Game still has a whole bunch of copies of this. They might be working something out with Game Surplus for when we live stream this. So there's your heads up on this. Okay.
The first HeavyCon that they sent us stuff, which was the second one, I think they sent us like 4 or 5 of them. So if you were at the second HeavyCon, you probably got one.
Yeah, so it didn't sell well, but I definitely think it was ahead of its time. I think it would do a lot better now than it would have probably back in 2012.
Cool.
Sweet.
I'm excited.
Yeah, that's on my radar.
Yeah. So that's Asgard.
And I lied. I said I didn't play any other published games. I did play one. I'm sorry.
All right, now what was it?
I played The Mind, which is a brand new 2018 release. Then it's the best way I can describe it is like reverse Hanabi. So in Hanabi, you have your hand of cards that's facing away from you, and you're getting clues from everybody about what to play, but you play them down in order.
Right.
In this one, instead, you have a hand of cards that only you can see, and you can't communicate anything to the other players, and you still have to try and play them down in numerical order.
Oh my gosh.
Because they range from like 0 to 100?
1 to 100, yeah.
And how many cards do you get? Do you remember?
It's based on what level you're at, and so we were playing a 4-player game, and you have to play from level 1 to level 8. So level 1, everybody gets 1 card, and you have to play them down in numerical order. Then, in theory, if you made it to level 8, we never did. Highest we got to was 5. You get, in theory, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, cards that you then have to play in numerical order around the table. There's a couple other things
and
that help.
And you're not allowed to speak.
You're not allowed to speak. So you have 3 lives. So every time you mess up, you lose a life. So you get 3 mistakes.
And by you, it's cooperative, right?
Yeah, it's a cooperative game. And then you can earn more lives at regular intervals, so you don't have 3 for the duration. And then there's another card that are shurikens for some reason. I don't know how those fit the theme. But
yeah, right.
But those let everybody discard their lowest card. So those can be really powerful when you have like 5 cards and everybody discards your lowest. You can see like, okay, Edward just discarded a 60. I discarded a 4. So Edward's clearly his hand's way up there.
Right.
But
much hilarity ensued.
Yeah, listening to you guys play that was pretty hysterical.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, like I'm definitely going to be picking up a copy because that's perfect for the drinking at the brewery game night stuff. So Yeah.
And what's the name of it?
The Mind.
The Mind.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
not sure who publishes it. The copy we played was all in German, so it was one of the German
But it's just
publishers.
numbers.
Yeah. You
Okay.
could make it yourself.
Okay, cool. All right, good deal. All right, so prototype time. There's 9 of them. So tuck in. Let's go through this. So I have it kind of chronologically, but we don't have to. First one, Revolution 1828. So it's kind of a 2-player thinky filler where the players represent 2 U.S. presidential candidates from 1828, which is the very first mudslinging campaigns, where it was more about talking bad about your opponent as opposed to talking why you're the better candidate. And it's Andrew Jackson,
John Quincy Jones.
all right. Now,
No. Adam Quincy Jones.
Adam Quincy Jones. There you go. Now, the game we played had no artwork. It's a prototype. Designed by somebody I would have never, ever, ever guessed. Well, I shouldn't say that because I did eventually guess this.
But it was like the last, because he was like,
It's
you
a
wanna know who
famous
designed it?
German designer.
We guessed like a dozen different designers before we finally got it right.
Yeah, and who is it?
Feld.
Stefan Feld. I would have
Yeah.
never guessed that this was him. So it's going to be published by Frosted Games. I believe it's supposed to be this year. I think it could be 2019. I'm not sure.
Well, I think he said Essen this year from Frosted Games, but then for the States, Renegade's bringing it early 2019.
Okay. Well, there you go. So, yeah, it was a 2-player kind of tug-of-war game where you're grabbing discs off of 6 different regions is how it was for when we played it, right?
Yeah.
And there's 3 discs per region, 6 different regions, and each of these discs either have a color on them that represents that region that they're a part of to help give you majorities, think of them as votes in that region, or there were some rule breakers that were out there that let you do all a number of different things. And then there's one region that's coffins. And if you win that region, you score negatively for your coffins.
Yep.
And not good at all.
No.
And actually, Adrian and I sat down and Matthias taught us the game real quick. And so it was mano y mano on this. And it plays over 3 rounds.
4 rounds.
I just was watching.
It's 4 rounds.
It was 4 rounds? Okay, 4 rounds. And I crushed you the
For
first
3.
round.
Yeah. And even the second. At the end of the second round, it was 12-0 Edward.
And it looked like, wow, this is not in a good spot. Because,
Yeah.
again, it's a prototype. So these are all play tests that we're doing and giving feedback on all of this stuff. And wouldn't you know, Edward did not win.
Yep. I came back, beat you 15-13 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. So we were worried that it was just going to be totally off balance and totally not interesting. But come to find out, no, actually.
Yeah, because at the end of each round, everything clears but the coffins. So I got stuck with a bunch of coffins in those first 2 rounds that cost me basically every point I made, which is why I was at 0 after 2 rounds. And I was like, well, if these just keep piling up, then how do I ever get back in the game? Well, then some of the rule breakers came out that were like, give coffins to your opponents and move things around. And it ultimately ended up that I was able to kind of come back.
Yeah, manipulate things to where you were in a better position. And
Yeah.
I was not able to think outside the box enough to get out of the way and outplay you. Overall, what'd you think?
I really liked it, especially after the first play. First play, I was pretty blown away. And then I taught it to Lucian and someone else. I don't remember who else who I taught it to with Lucian. And then I played it another couple of times by the end of the con. And I started to have a vague concern where it seemed like most of the games I saw, they came down to whoever took the last set of coffins was who lost. So it felt like all of the game came down to that one thing. And that concerns me a little bit. I talked to Matthias about that a little bit, and he said that was something that they were kind of working on, and they were still, it's still very early
Tweaking.
prototype.
Yeah,
They're tweaking.
And that's what's good. That's what's cool about playing these is you can give feedback like that, and they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, well, let's,
Yeah.
And some rules literally changed in the middle
Yep.
of a game while they were like, oh, yeah, that's actually really good. I like that. Let's do that for now on.
Yeah. But I think that I think it'll be great for what it is. 45-minute 2-player game that you can get some interesting decisions in. Thinky filler. It'll be right in there.
I think it's going to be I don't know of any Steffenfeld that is a thinky filler. Like, this is a new thing that's why we never would have, like, it blew our minds when we heard who it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I know that Luchin had some concerns as well, very similar. Same with
Meeple Pete did too, yeah.
Kind of around the coffin.
That's who
thing.
I taught with Lucien. It was Pete.
And Matthias said that that's something that they're going to kind of flesh out a little bit as the game goes along. But sign me up. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt that they're going to get that worked out. So Revolution 1828. So hopefully by Essen this year.
Yeah.
All right, coming from Frosted Games.
Continuing on with playtest by classic German designers.
And kind of thinky filler, but maybe a step up from
above,
a thinky filler, right?
Definitely. But we got to play. Matthias brought very, very basic prototype, even more so than Revolution. Revolution had a board. This was just paper. But we got to play Reichholt, which is Uwe Rosenberg's new game.
And going to be also published by Frosted Games. And
Renegade in the States as well.
I don't know a time frame on this one. Do you?
No, I think this one
one's pretty early.
I think it's still 2019.
Is it? Okay, I know he had the artwork for it, but he asked us. Yeah, the
so
artwork
good.
looks great. And the box cover looks really almost foreboding.
Like creepy, but...
Yeah, it did, which has nothing to do with the
Nothing.
game. So apparently Reichholt is a town, a very, very village, maybe,
200
village.
people.
in Iceland. And it's famous for a restaurant there that serves tomatoes with
even water. They bring you water with tomatoes in it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of their shtick. And so they get like 100,000+ tourists every year, whatever. So when Matthias was telling us a story about how he ended up getting this game, that Uwe Rosenberg actually had a meeting with somebody at, I forget where they were, at what convention or like little like proto spiel type thing, and had a bunch of games and was pitching them. And Matthias was like, "Oh, I like that one," and he said, "Here, it's yours." Oh, okay.
Matthias
So
was like,
that's how
"Okay."
it works. So it was originally supposed to be
Gates of Loyang, the card game.
Yes.
exactly, and I don't really get. I mean, it has the harvest stuff of it, but it didn't feel like Gates of Loyang to me.
I really think that was like an elevator pitch at the beginning.
Just
Gates
to
of Loyang,
kind
the
of
card
give you a
game.
context,
and it's been
But
changed. Yeah.
The only thing that's a holdover is the harvest cards that where you plant your crops, and the idea that some crops are rare, can only be planted on the small gardens. Some crops are common and can go on the big gardens.
Yep.
That's the only holdover.
Yeah.
And then it's essentially a race game to
Yes.
where what you're trying to do is build up an engine to then be able to move along this track. And this track, maybe it starts out to where you have to pay, 1 tomato, and then to advance the next space, you have to pay 1 squash, and then you have to pay 1 cabbage or
Right.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then it just increases. So now you need 2 to go another space, and then 2, so on and so forth, all the way down to make it to the, whoever's furthest along this track at the end of the game is the winner. And everybody has 3 actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can have these cards, which I felt might have been a little bit overpowered, but it could be that I feel that way because I did not play with them, really.
Yeah, I think that's exactly.
Yeah.
She stressed at the beginning that those were
Those
important.
are really
Yeah.
important, and don't neglect those. So
They're rule
everybody
breakers.
neglected them except for Pete. And then Adrian, there was this one cool action in the action selection aspect to where you, like I said, you have 3 workers. You can take 3 actions, and it goes around the table. You take 1 at a time, so on and so forth. One of which is, you get to share this card, this rule breaker,
With your neighbor.
with your neighbor. And once it's between those 2 players, it's between those 2 players for the entire game. So if Pete got a card and Amanda's on one side of him and Adrian's on the other side of him, whoever goes to that spot first can share that card, and it's permanent between those 2. And it's not like you have to place a worker on it to use it. You just get it anytime you qualify with whatever it is. Whenever you harvest, you plant or
Right.
you sow a new field or whatever. And yeah, you absolutely have to be in the game with those cards, because if you get left out, well, you're going to get left out.
Yes.
So they're all overpowered, which means none of them are overpowered, which
Right.
means you just got to fight to make sure you get one of the 6 of
There's
them.
there's 6 available in each game, and I think he said there's 36 in
Yeah,
the box.
there's a bunch,
So,
yeah.
So there's 6 different kind of tweaks or variants within the
Yep.
game, because those cards change within each grouping of those. And the actions range from very simple, get a tomato and get a cabbage, or, get a field and sow one field. And so it's just a very simple engine building race that
Yep.
I actually would argue this might be, I mean, it's prototype, but I liked what I saw there. This might be my favorite Uwe Rosenberg game since Before Glass Road.
It's been a while. This is the first one that I've been like, yes, I really liked it, and it was just paper.
Yeah. I really, and I knew we were in for something along those lines when, he set it up, and for a 4-player game, there were 12 action spaces, something like 16 maybe. It was like, oh, it's not 64 spaces.
Right.
Right, yeah, for sure.
And sure enough, it got tight. Like, there were only a couple spaces where you could do certain things, and if 3 people wanted to do them, somebody was getting left out.
There may have been copious amounts of cursing in both English and German
Yes,
that
perhaps.
were flying around that table,
Yep.
Yes.
which is always a good sign, in my opinion.
Yep.
Definitely. I played it twice, and both games were it was interesting. The second game, I tried a different strategy and still won. I won both games of it.
Hashtag
great
humble
game.
brag.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. We're about to talk about the sagas of Nog and the Nog, so don't worry.
Yeah. But the thing I liked is that I tried 2 very different strategies that both had success. So there's multiple things you can do in a game. And the other thing I liked is with the different cheat cards that you can get in there, the games felt very different in terms of play.
That's really good.
That's exciting. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that, because I'll be honest, I'm going through the list of all the games, and we didn't play a single one of these more than once. So
Yeah.
that's good to hear.
Yeah, that and Revolution were the only 2 I played more than once, but
Which makes sense, because those are the 2 shorter of the ones.
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So that's Raycolt. Reykhholt. Uwe Rosenberg, published by Frosted Games, and here in the States, going to be Renegade Games.
That's right.
All right. So let's move on to A Nice Cup of Tea, or as it's going to be called, Alubari, A Nice Cup of Tea.
Yeah.
So Alubari, Alubari, is, I think it's aptly described as an evolution of the Snowdonia system, designed by Tony Boydell and published by Matago Games. So we all played that.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I really liked it. It continued to trend for me. So I've won the 3 games we've talked about, Revolution and 2 games of Raycolt. At Lieria, it was either I won or I got trounced. And this was the first of the I got trounced.
The trouncings.
I got beat real bad. The only person who did worse than me was actually Tony. He was playing with us, and he didn't fulfill a single one of his end game contracts. So he ended up with like 28 points.
Did someone explain to him the goal of the game?
Right.
Did he explain to himself the goal of the game?
So, okay, real quick. Have you played Snowdonia?
I have not.
Okay, so you're coming into this completely cold, and we haven't played Snowdonia in a number of
Long
years
time.
at this point. So, thoughts on the game? Go. You wanna set it up?
Yeah. So essentially, it takes place in Darjeeling, and you're building tea plantations and train tracks, and clearing rubble and everything is very Snowdonia-esque in that regard, from what I understand.
Yep.
And there's the tea thing is really the twist from Snowdonia, in that you harvest tea leaves, and then you can turn those tea leaves into chai, and then you can use the chai to boost your workers to where they're more efficient at their actions.
Or give you some special ability that can only be unlocked with chai.
Yeah. But worker placement with, I don't know, 2 dozen spots.
Sure, go with that. And on top of that, they have cards that you can get that are one-time use rule breakers for you, as well as the tea plantations, which might give you some sort of bonus as well. And the game is really far along. Like this is a near finished prototype.
Yeah.
In fact, I think this might be the furthest along out of just about all the games.
Yeah,
there might be one exception to that.
Yeah, I think there's one. Yeah.
In fact, Tony was saying that as far as testing it here at the con, he wasn't testing the game anymore. He was testing the rules,
which was awesome.
Yeah, and that was done by
Paul Grogan
of Gaming Rules, which between him and Travis Hill, those are the two that I fully support.
Yeah.
The fact that
They crush
rule
it.
books getting done by, because they understand how a rule book should be done.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that attention to detail. Now, T, yes, sign me up. Elephants, yeah, hello. It's set in India, and then trains. So this is ticking off a whole lot of boxes. Thematically, I really liked it, and I gotta say, there really wasn't any aspect of this game that I did not enjoy. I love the fact that you're limited to 2 workers to be able to do your actions, but there is a way to be able to acquire temporarily a 3rd worker, which in a worker placement game, a lot of times more workers, ergo more actions, ergo better. But it's a temporary worker, so it goes back at the end of the round. And yeah, definitely enjoyed that. I like the fact that there were different paths. I completely did not touch a plantation the entire game, and I was competitive. I didn't win, but I was close.
Yeah.
And so that tells me that had I done some things a little bit different, maybe I could have won.
Yeah.
So that shows me that going plantations was an option. Avoiding plantations altogether and focusing on building rail was an option, as well as endgame contracts, and mixing those in around all of that all seemed to work.
Yeah, it did. It felt very familiar, obviously, because it's built on like the Snowdonia engine. But it was just different enough to be a completely different feeling game. The chai really adds to it, which you wouldn't think one little thing would, but it really does.
It's kind of almost like almost an Age of Steam type system to
Yes.
where, or kind of like how Brass Birmingham feels like Brass Lancashire, which is, base Brass.
Yeah.
It feels like that, but it's definitely its own game. That's kind of what
exactly.
it felt like to me as well.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting talking to people over the course of the con about Nice Cup of Tea, is that some of them were like, oh yeah, I felt this was Snowdonia 2.0 is better than Snowdonia, and then others were like, no, it's different, like I still like Snowdonia better. And so it doesn't definitively replace it, but it's not just this more of the same. Like it's its own thing. And
right, which is what you would want.
Yep.
Right, I mean, if provided you like that, and it's an evolution on the system, which is exactly what Tony said it would be.
Yeah, and it was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
One thing I guess I should say is, at least for me, out of all these games that I played, out of all these prototypes, I was shocked. I did not dislike a single one of them.
Nope.
Legitimately surprised by that.
Yeah, me neither. They were all really good.
Which is great, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. But at the same time, it sounds like everything's rainbows and sunshine and ice cream.
I don't know if we just got lucky.
Well, and I think also if you look down the list of whose games they were, like
It kind of makes sense,
we were
right?
playing,
Sure.
Some of them, like it was surprising that the Feld was in our particular niche, not so much that it was a good game. Like
Fair
Feld
point.
makes good games.
Yeah. I think that's fair. So that's Alubari, A Nice Cup of Tea. All right, next, let's talk about the game that I thought people were joking about at first when I heard about it. So it's The Sagas of Noggin the Nog. If you're in the UK, you know about this. If you're out of the UK, it sounds like a kid's game, which is exactly what I thought it was going to be. So designed by Nick Case and published by his company, which is Amusement. So A-Muse, M-U-S-E -Ment, M-E-N-T. All right. The Sagas of Noggin the Nog. I thought this was some sort of cutesy little kids game. And the artwork is very whimsical. It's very childlike, like fantasy, fables is kind of how it felt to me, the artwork. However, when I saw the board, there's a lot going on that board. And I was like, okay, this can't be a kid's game. And actually, one of our patrons, Phryne, had said, I'm really looking forward to this game. And I didn't know if she was being serious or not, because, again, it might be something nostalgia related for those in the UK. And we're going to actually have Nick on the show in a couple of weeks to sit down with me to talk about the history of all of this.
Which he told us some of it during the play, and I can't wait for everybody to get to hear it.
Yeah, really cool stuff.
Yes.
And I know you talked about it briefly over on your show, right, Adrian?
Yeah. I talked about it on my show, and then I don't know if it'll actually ever see the light of the day, but Saturday night, after several drinks, Tony and Nick and I went to another room and shot some video that might not be fit for airing ever. But Nick went on a little bit more in detail about some of the backstory of Noggin the Nog, and I really hope that at least that portion I can clean up enough and get it out there. But
cool.
Yeah.
So you want to describe the game? Because you did a really good job describing it over on your show. So I'm like, yeah, go for it. I have no problem with that.
So from a thematic standpoint, like Edward said, those of you who are British went, oh, Noggin the Nog. Okay, of course. For the rest of us, this is based on an old British TV show from like the 50s and 60s. Think kind of like Lord of the Rings, but with like Vikings and English, more thematic than the actual Tolkien fantasy.
Right.
It surrounds the main character, Noggin, who's the king of the Nogs.
His father had just passed away, right?
And so he's just coming into trying to claim the kingship, and he's constantly at odds with his evil uncle Nogbad, because the naming conventions are very Nog heavy.
Yeah, it's and all your workers in the game are Nogs.
Yeah.
So right, yeah.
But so the game itself, the board game of it, it's a semi-cooperative, and that's very thin on the on the cooperative portion. And I only say that because there is a game clock by Nogbad that all players can lose.
It is right, and that's where the cooperation ends. Is right
Starts
there.
and ends right there. There's a game clock that everybody's trying to beat, but you're also trying to beat everybody else, and there's plenty of options for that. So it's a worker placement game. You start off with 10 workers, and you're going to be placing them around the board. And every time you place them somewhere, you can do actions at that location that eat up time. And there's a central little time clock that you're going to move your disc, and whoever's furthest back is going to be taking their actions.
And that kind of reminded me a little bit of Glenmore or Shipyard. Like if you're further behind, you get to take more actions until you're no longer behind, that type thing.
And so this one has a thing where if you ever finish your action and you're in front at that point, hard stop, you're done. That's the end of your turn. Move on, and then the next person does their thing. It plays out over 8 rounds. Each round is a season, so 4 seasons, 2 years, and you go through all the different parts of those years. There's a harvest phase, there's a growing, there's a planting, there's winter when your crops go fallow if you haven't used them at that point. And kind of mixed in with all of that is how you move the game clock forward so that Nogbad doesn't beat you, is you're going on quests.
Right. Hence the sagas of Noggin the Nog. You actually go on these sagas.
Yep. And you assign workers to them, and you take resources. And so the whole resource management portion of the game is to build up to be able to fulfill these sagas. And then the sagas are also a major point generator in the game. But it's almost impossible to do them on your own. So other people are going there, but sometimes you want them to, sometimes you don't.
And on top of that, if some of these sagas, they'll be 3, 4, maybe even 5 chapters long, kind of, to where you fulfill one chapter of it. And you're going to end up getting a bunch of points for that, which is awesome. But your workers are tied up until all those chapters are completed. So you know what? And this kind of happened to Adrian on more than one occasion. He got his workers locked up, and nobody was helping him on that saga.
They were going for the other one of the 2.
Exactly. So he has 5 and 6 workers locked up on the saga. And now you can take them back. But you're like, I just spent all these resources, and I spent all this time and effort to get these potential points. Once this is finished, I'm not going to take my workers off of there and then forfeit those points. But I only have like 5, 6 workers, and all you other fools out here have 8 and 10 workers.
Yeah.
it can get really nasty.
Yeah.
In the best way possible. And I really like the time mechanic in this, in that you don't have to race to always be first to where there's that hard stop on your turns. It's one of those, oh, hey, there's a spot right here. I could take 2 actions and just slide in right here to where now, Amanda will take her turn and then I get to go again because now I'm in last again. And I think that's really, really clever. I like the way that's done. I like the keyflower aspect kind of, okay, every time you want to take an action, it requires more workers. So the first time you go there is 1. The second time you go there, it's 2. Third time you go there is 3. But if Adrian hasn't gone there, the first time he goes there, it still only costs him 1.
Yep.
So on and so forth.
They said they tried it with the full keyflower of everybody has to keep beating what was there, and they said the game ground to a halt when they did that. So.
And this is where that playtesting comes in. And actually, at the end of all of this, Nick floated a couple of ideas for things that they haven't playtested. And just, okay, we had 4 heavy gamers at this table. What do you guys think of this? And we broke it down and told them the pluses and minuses about what we thought about this. And I don't know if this ends up being a stretch goal because this is going to be coming to Kickstarter in May, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And there's going to be 2 different types or 2 different versions of this game. There's going to be the base version, just here's the game, right? And then there's the deluxe version, which he said they're going to have 100 copies of, which I told him, no, sir, no, Nick. You're going to have 98 copies of.
Yeah.
Well, I said 99.
And then I immediately said 98.
Right. So, FYI, there's 98 copies of the collector's edition available, which apparently they're going to have pewter minis.
Yep.
It's going to look so neat.
For the NPCs. So, all the characters from Noggin the Nog, the stories, play a part in this game in that you can almost kind of hire them to help along. They're almost a resource.
That's how I describe it, because just like you're taking wood to a thing, sometimes you need to take the queen on this mission, this saga.
Right. And sometimes they're needed on both sagas because there's always 2 sagas available. Well, if they're tied up on one, you know what they can't be? They can't be on the other one. And on top of that, there are inventions which can potentially be worth up to 40 points.
Yeah.
And in a game where you score 100 points,
That's
40
crazy.
points is enormous. So you can't neglect inventions, can you, Adrian?
No, you cannot.
And I say this as the same guy who also neglected inventions. Lessons learned.
Y'all-
Lessons were definitely
Lessons were learned.
Yeah.
But there is a ton going on in this game, and I'm not going to say it was my favorite prototype there, but it was my favorite prototype there.
Yeah, no, it stole the show for me. It was fantastic. And then even getting to hear the backstory from Nick about going and meeting the original artist,
Just the guy
and
who
voice
came up with
who
all
did
of
Noggin
this.
the
Yeah.
Nog,
Yeah.
and getting to meet him and talking about that whole story of going up there and having some tea, and this guy's tottering around. Here's my BAFTA,
Yeah.
and all of that.
And they came up with the alphabet to use in the game.
Yeah, the guy hand wrote like a sample sheet, and then one of Nick's friends made a font out of it. And so everything in the game is the man that drew everything. It's his handwriting for Noggin the Nog specifically.
Yep.
And apparently he's getting up there in age, so this might be the end of the road, because this is the same as Ivor the Engine, which Tony Boydell, he made the game of. And so the backstory obviously adds to this. I think if you were from the UK, you're going to have sentimental reasons to want this game. If you're not from the UK, I don't have any sentimental reasons, but I really want this game because it's a really cool game.
Yeah, and I didn't play it. There wasn't enough places, and that's fine. So I kind of sat with you and, here and there, but just listening to Nick tell that story, I was like, I want to play this game now,
Yeah, and same thing with Edward. I don't have any connections to the story other than Nick's very endearing retelling of the entire process of getting this game made. But the gameplay holds up, and that's what's really going to count in the long run. Whether it's a game that, it's on my shelf because of nostalgia and it looks pretty on my shelf, versus this is a game I want to play, and man, this is a game I want to play.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. I'm legitimately looking forward to it, and it's one that I yeah, I'm excited to play. I want to try different things, and I liked how nasty the game can be. Doesn't have to be, but it can be if you're playing with the group that, well, enjoys Kalis.
Yeah, right.
So that's The Sagas of Noggin the Nog. And actually, there's an entry on BGG for this one, so you guys can go take a look at that as well. So that's coming from Nick Case and Amusement to Kickstarter in May.
There's also a Facebook group that you can join, and I will link that in the show notes.
So next up was a game I hadn't even heard of before, well, the day we got there at the convention, and that's Tutor.
It's kind of an eye catcher.
It is, or a finger catcher, ring catcher, maybe. Designed by Jan Kirschner and published by Corax Games. I believe this is going to be coming to Kickstarter in the next couple of months, I think is what they said.
No, it's going to crowdfunding, but it's going to the German crowdfunding.
That's it. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's the same crowdfunding that Lignum was on originally.
I think so.
That feels right to me.
Yeah, me
too.
So
it's a German...
It's like a German Kickstarter.
Yeah. So it's not Kickstarter, but a crowdfunding. Good call.
Yeah.
So, Henry VIII?
Yes.
Yes. So the game, the eye-catching part of the game is that your player screen has a hand on it with 5 fingers, or 4 fingers and a thumb, and you place rings on the fingers in course of the game, and it seems kind of kitschy, but the placement of the rings actually do things for you. It gives you different like rule breaking things or different abilities, which that was kind of interesting and nothing I'd ever seen before.
I've never seen I've never seen a useful player screen other than to screen players.
No.
Like literally that's it, right? So Henry VIII is the thematic the tutors, right? I mean, so that's the theme of the game, and you're trying to ascend in the court and to up your rank within your standing within the court, and you're doing so by being able to play cards to match certain colors or certain little tiles that are above and the next step going up one of the, I think there's 6 or 7 different tracks that you can advance up to eventually getting to a seat, which is supposed to represent certain influence or prestige within the court. And it's mechanically pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a worker placement where you're going to be placing, in the first round you place 2 of your courtiers, which is like your small meeples. You place 2 of those out, and then every round after that you're placing 1 additional one. And you place them into lines of the waiting room, and then they file into their little room area. And then after everybody's done that, then you place your big worker, which is like your lord, and any rooms that don't have a lord, the people aren't going to work. There's nobody overseeing me. I'm going to kick back here and just relax.
Have some
Take a load off, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you're just placing a couple pieces every turn, and those are going to determine what actions you have access to.
And you have choices between 2 actions for your courtiers, the people that are coming into the room, and there's a hierarchy as far as there's a order in which you file into the room, which is the same order.
And file out.
Yeah.
Right, same order that you were in the waiting room. And each room has 2 actions that you can take, and you choose an either or, except for your large meeple or your lord or whatever it's going to be in the finished game. They get to take both actions. So it might be that you have a worker over in this other room, but the 2 actions that you really want to take are over here in this other room, so you don't want to put your lord in the same room. But if you don't, you're risking the chance that your courtier doesn't actually get to do the action that you put him there to do. And then in addition to that, there's a bit of a screw you factor in that it's possible that as you're lining up in the waiting room, that everybody who's in the waiting room is going to file into the room. It's possible some of the people that are already in the room just get bumped out.
Yes.
Like their time has expired.
Yep.
The further down you are, the closer you are to the exit, the more at risk you are to getting bumped out. And so it becomes a game within a game of placing between these three rooms. Who do you want to, yeah, you might be second in line, but if I go into that room again to try and double up to take two actions in that room with courtiers, then I'm running the risk of not being able to get both because it's getting me one step closer to pushing my other one out the door. Mm-hmm. So if people line up behind me, well, there goes, now I'm just treading water. I traded one worker for one worker, and that second one just doesn't do anything.
Yeah. One of the things I thought was really interesting about this game is during the setup, you choose two cards that are going to determine what the scoring is in the game. And it seems like these are going to be able to just vastly influence how the game's going to play. In ours, it was twofold scoring. The first scoring card was every time you reach one of the seats, depending on which seat it was, you got some amount of points immediately. So if you reached one of the short ones, maybe you got 12. If you reached one of those at the end of a long track, you got 18, 20, whatever. Then the secondary scoring card was at the end of the game. It was a set collection thing where as you're moving along these tracks, you're collecting little
chit type things.
Chits that are representative of the 5 different colors, 6 different colors that are in the game.
Actually, I think it's more than that. I think it was like 8.
It might be like
but
8.
Yeah.
But then it's regular, set collection in that the very common, if you have 1, it's 1 point. If you get 2, it's 3 points.
Right.
4 is, 7,
right,
whatever.
And keeps going from there. But those were completely interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And those vary from game to game. And that he showed us that there was just a whole host that they had. And it just so happened those were the ones that came up in the games.
Yeah, and I could see different versions of those really drastically changing how you're going to go about playing that game and what you're going for.
Yeah, because if going to the top is not one of the scorings, then what's the point? It might not matter as much as it did in our game.
And it completely changes the way the game's going to play.
Yep.
And something that you talked about earlier was when you get when you get up there and claim these seats, you also get a ring. And so you start the game with 2 rings, and it's possible you can have up to 5 rings, one for every finger, to where then all of a sudden all these rule breakers are afforded to you, and there's ways to steal rings from other players if you dislodge where they are, or there's other little ways of being able to take rings from them. And any time that you get a new ring, you can reposition the rings that you have on your hand to be able to, maybe I went from 2 rings to 3 rings. Well, now I want the 3 middle fingers.
So I can do X, Y, and Z.
Right. Or maybe I want it on my last 3 fingers because that allows me to do this. And then the person who lost the ring also can adjust theirs. And I think it could have been done with like just a little chart over here. It doesn't have to be the way it is. And it's totally... It's a gimmick. It totally is, but it works.
But
and thematically, it kind of fits.
It does fit, and it's a gimmick that is useful. It's not just there to be there.
Yeah, because it if you had it on a little sheet to the side, it might be harder to see, but the way it has it now, you can easily look around the table and be like, oh, Edward has his rings aligned so that he's got strengths in these 2 powers. He's probably going to want to put workers to do those actions, and so it gives you an idea of what other people are going to be doing, which allows you to, in theory, plan better.
And those rings are what a lot of time are what cards you're able to draft. And so those rings are in all the different colors that the cards are. So, maybe you have a black, a yellow, and a green ring or whatever. And that allows you, from these actions that your courtiers and your lord or whatnot can take, it allows you to be able to maybe draw a card of the rings that you have. And so, oh, wow, I really need a brown one, but I don't have a brown ring. Well, now you have to try and manipulate. And the different actions allow you to maybe exchange a ring or something like that. And it's, there's a fair bit of meat here that I didn't expect just because I saw the hand and I was like, I don't know, it looks real gimmicky. But no, it actually really works. And there's a fair bit here.
One of the funniest things is that each round is one of Henry VIII's wives, and the further along in the game that you get, the okay, this one's dead, so now we're on to round 2, and round 5 is his last wife, I think. So I just think it's funny.
I think that's really well done, tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
If you can have tongue in cheek about murder, I don't
Morbid
whatever.
humor, dark humor.
Yeah.
Dark humor, yeah. So yeah, well done on that.
No, I got a kick out of it.
Another game I'm looking forward to for sure, and that's Tudor, designed by Jan Kirshner and published by Corax Games.
Yep. And they're still shopping for an English publisher. So,
but if it is the same crowdfunding that Lignum, it's possible that Americans can get it, or you don't have to be over in Europe to be able to. And so just keep an eye out. And Tudor has a BGG page as well, so you can always probably go there to follow along with that.
yep.
So that ends all the games that we have in common at this point. So the next 4, some of us have not played.
Right.
So first off, we'll talk Yangtze, the Blue River. This name is going to change. This is the next game. I shouldn't say the next game. It's
An upcoming game from Spielworks.
there you go. It's coming in 2019, designed by, and I find this hysterical, that it's Rôla and Costa. That's who is credited.
It's Rôla and Costa.
It's Rôla Costa. So
Was it Luchin that came up with that?
I think so. So their last name. So the Spiel Portugal guys, almost universally, except for Nuno and Polo, it seems, are all known for the most part by their last names.
Even Nuno and Paulo.
Oh, really?
Just not to us.
Okay, so yeah, so Rôla Costa and Roller Coaster, that's going to be a thing. So they're well, you know what? Instead of us talking about the game too much, why don't we let them tell you all about it?
Yeah, here's Roller Coaster.
All right, here it is, the end of LeiriaCon 2018. Hanging out with a couple of the fellas that are behind LeiriaCon, which is Spiel Portugal, but also our new designers that have a couple of games coming out, one of which from Spielworks and one from What's Your Game. And happy to be joined by Rôla and Costa, or as we've gotten to name you guys, Rôla Costa. All right, so first off, awesome con, fellas. Well done.
Oh, thank you very much. It's always an honor and a pleasure to run this con.
Yes, it's wonderful. We have been working so hard these past 12 years to make a great convention, and we are very proud.
You should be. It's everything that's been under your control has been great, and the only thing that hasn't, come to Portugal, they said. The weather's great, they said. So it's rained every day and stormed the entire time, but even so, it's been an awesome time. So really, really well done, and we're looking forward to coming back next year. So that was really cool. So thank you, guys.
That's cool too. To host you this year was special for us because you are from the other side of the ocean. But when we meet you, it's just like you are not our neighbors. And we need neighbors because we have Spain and sea. So we need more neighbors and fantastic neighbors as you.
Too kind. I appreciate that. Thank you. So, all right. So give your full names, because I'm not even going to try and pronounce these because I'm going to butcher it. And then we'll start talking about the games.
Okay.
My name is José Santos, but everybody knows me as Rôla.
And my name is Luís Costa, but everyone knows me as Costa.
All right. So 2 games coming out from 2 big name publishers.
I cannot believe it yet.
Yeah, very, very cool. So we'll talk about the one that's going to come out first, which is going to be Primus.
Yes.
From What's Your Game. And I talked to Mariano and Veronica a little while ago about that briefly. But tell folks about the game.
It's about the theme is about the last century of the Roman Republic. So the game tried to, like the name Primus, means that someone in a gens, that is a Roman family, tried to be the first guy having success, having power, having money, having world glories. That's what we try to pass with the game.
The game experience is all about backstabbing, some tricky negotiation, although it's not a negotiation game, but some trash talk. I think there are a couple of cool mechanics that people will like, and we are looking forward for the game.
The action selection. So Amanda and I got a chance to play it last night, and it's pretty far along. The actual base mechanics of the game, of the prototype,
Are pretty solid now.
are really, really solid. It's an action selection in which when you select the actions, you're going to get 1, 2, or 3 value worth of discs, which then you can use those discs to then pay as a type of currency to be able to select additional actions, and that cost increases as we go along. And really, really, really clever, really tight, and I like the aspect of the game regarding the Senate and the Senate actions.
Yeah, even in the other game, we start working with the theme. We search for the theme, and we have some ideas that we can develop in the game. So when we thought about the Romans, normally we think that they are running and conquering and so on and so on. But we thought, yeah, but they need the ships, they need troops, they need this and that. Where they planned that in Rome. And so we decided to have actions in Rome and campaign actions. And that's why we have this kind of double actions and different...
They are interlocked.
Yeah, that's it.
And the Senate simulates that backstabbing that I told you. So when players have the opportunities to try to score, and there's always the chance that some other player goes behind and takes the chance of scoring from him.
So how did this partnership come about? I mean, briefly, I know you guys are tired and everything, so...
Yeah, I think we were jealous about Nuno and Paulo.
Basically.
So we said, come on, we can do something like this. Now, we are friends and we have our plans to do something, but have Paulo and Nuno with us, it was really important because we always learn with them. Of course, we test their games. And at the same time, we figured that we could do something like this.
And we already have our own ideas, and we talked to each other and said, well, if we join together, maybe we can help each other and push one the other and make another power duo like Paulo and Nuno.
And because Mariano started coming with Veronica to LeiriaCon, I don't know, 7 years ago in a row, it was naturally the first publisher we present our ideas. We started with a Mozambique theme, and of course Marianne said it doesn't sell. We jumped to Oriental theme, and Marianne said, okay, I have already something like this, I guess would be Zangu or something like that. And he challenged us, Roman. And for us it was unexpected because they are Italians, so big responsibilities. But we start working and...
We came up with Primus.
Yeah.
Primus.
It sounds so much better when you guys say it than when I say it. That's awesome. Yeah.
It's a Latin word.
All right. So, and according to Mariano and Veronica, that's on pace for Essen this year.
Yep. Yes. I already booked my kids to go with me. And my wife, I don't know. So I have I will have people there to help me going on with that. And Costa will be there too.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
That's got to feel amazing. That's got to be exciting.
Yes, I haven't went to Essen since 2007. It's the last time I went to Essen.
I imagine it's a bit different.
Yes, I know. I know it is. I know it is.
Yeah, for sure. We are used to see the games coming, and now we will be there to show it. Must be fantastic, I guess.
That's cool. Awesome. All right. So transitioning now over to the other game that you guys have.
Yangtze.
Yangtze from Spielworks. That's tentatively slated at least for probably late 2019, I believe.
Yes. We are not. It's for 2019 for sure. We don't know now the precise date, but it's for 2019 for sure.
And that's another one of the prototypes that we got a chance to play, and that's definitely a bigger of the two games for sure. I think
it's a meaty one. It's a meaty one. Yangtze, of course, is just the project name now. It won't be for sure the final name, but it's the project name, and it's a a heavy hero economic game with lots of meat and bones to chew on. You play tested. You saw the
I did, yeah,
the hard
and-
time you got.
Yeah, it was amazing watching the four of us sit around the table and struggle, and not from a mechanical standpoint, but from a, decision standpoint. What there's a handful of decisions every action within each card play. So the game, I mean, at its core, it's an action selection, but with card play, to where each card has two sets of different
Values.
actions, right? To where you have one, which is
Fortune, and the other one is workforce. So you have two kinds of actions. You play one action, and it will give you points for doing later on another actions, and you alternate between those, and it's always a hard decision for the player to choose the better one to do, because every action can only be taken once, and it's a brainy game.
Yeah, it's set on 16th century in Yangtze Valley, China, Ming period, and even the game flows to the end when the European arrived to the coast, and so the trade starts being by the sea to Europe and not by land.
Yeah, it's a transition from a mostly agricultural society.
Economy to in a pre-industrial economy.
Yeah.
The game tries to simulate that, and again, like Primus, it's at least it's our effort to try to have a very thematic game. So every mechanic is very thematically interlocked with the mechanics.
We don't know if people will feel it later, but at least we tried. And you have a clear example, because, for example, the migrants. We didn't put the migrants on the game because it was needed of the mechanic. We put it because we knew that it was important. That, of course, it happened at that time. And when we did it, we found that was nice for the mechanic. So always help us to start with the theme, and of course
we have
must have.
We have a thumb of rule. When we get a blockade, stop we are blocked with our decisions. We stop and we think, well, what did they do at that time?
What happened really?
What happened really? So we investigate, and usually the history, the theme will help us get the mechanic right.
Very cool. So 100% theme driven,
Yes.
then in all your designs, and likely to follow that
Yes.
that path going forward.
Always
then,
from
right?
theme to mechanic.
Cool. All right. So that's two games for an a duo of unpublished designers to having two games out with two
Yes, we have been working
pretty
in
big names.
It's
That's
5
exciting.
years. 5 years working in these games.
Yeah,
So
even at this con you saw, we were like baratas tontas.
two cockroaches, two silly cockroaches running along the floor.
There, Primus there, and everything.
Many play
coming,
tests.
and everybody. I want to play your game. Okay, come on, you must wait. We'll have time. Now let's play with this and this, and it was really
It was
great.
us being a little bit like Paulo and Nuno in the other LeiriaCons. Paulo always have, and Nuno have their projects, and we see them in LeiriaCon doing the play testing with the authors and the designers. This time it was us.
That's got to feel pretty cool,
Yes,
does
yeah,
it not?
awesome.
Yes, and
Awesome.
it was cool to see my wife and his wife realizing that it's real, it's happening. Come
It's a
on,
thing.
they are not playing games now anymore. They are doing something else. Of course, playing games is great, but I think they were a little bit thinking, what are they doing when they are spending so much time playing testing and doing this
Working.
and this and working? And no, they know that we succeed.
And now they're starting to see the culmination of that people want to play what it is that you're creating.
Yes, the feedback has been positive, and hopefully we'll get out to nice games at least for people to enjoy.
I'm stoked about it.
Yeah, I hope so too, and we'll see with the reaction of the players. What can we add to our new projects? I think me at least, would like to have this feeling of expectations about us, like I have always about Paulo, Nuno, Vital, and other publishers that I appreciate really much.
And
So you want to have that expectation put upon you. That so you welcome the pressure.
yeah,
Yes,
for
and
sure.
we don't think we'll be rich or something like that. So it's not a professional thing, money thing. We want to be realized. We want to have our name in a creation. It's not like a book, I know. It's not like a sculpture, but it's a game that took us time, effort, and lots of fun doing. So we hope that people will have time, effort, and lots of fun playing it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Although these two games are not yet published, we already have a couple of new projects in mind.
Yeah.
The
We'll
paint-
talk about that next year in LeiriaCon with you.
Yes, of
Deal.
course.
All right.
Yes, of course.
All right. So Rôla, Costa, I appreciate y'all taking the time, especially because I know how tired you are after running the convention as well as trying to run demos for your own games, et cetera, et cetera. So thanks a lot for taking the time.
It was a pleasure, man.
And it's a couple new friends, so that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm excited about it.
For sure.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Amanda. It was really great to host you and to know you as our neighbors, I said.
Yeah, we are. I personally, I'm a fan of the show. I see the show as often as I can, and it is for me a pleasure to have you here in front of me, talking with me. So
I appreciate it. And
I will see you in Essen.
Yeah, I'll see you guys in Essen. All right, thanks, y'all. So as you guys heard, Yangtze and Primus, or the Italians say it so much better than we do.
Primos.
Yeah, thank you. Well done. So both of those games designed by Rôla and Costa. So Rôla Costa. So
Primos.
is going to be published by What's Your Game, and I believe that's slated for Essen this year.
I think so, yeah.
And Yangtze, the Blue River, which again, that name is going to change, so don't mark that one down. Just remember that's the Rôla Costa game coming from Spielworks. That's going to be in 2019, slated for. So, gotta say, both of those games, I was really excited to play.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I didn't know anything about the designers until meeting them at LeiriaCon, and both really good guys, but also they have design chops.
And we played both games on Saturday, and whew, I was tired.
Yeah, mentally drained, especially from Yangtze. Yangtze is definitely going to be the heavier of the two games.
Yeah.
It's going to be at the weight of a Colon Colony type game. It's definitely on the heavier end. Something like an Arkwright, it's going to be up there. Really cool card drafting mechanic in that one. And in Primus, the action selection, there's almost 2 layers of action selection in Primus, in that when you go and select a tile, you're going to get some amount of tokens, whether value 1, 2, or 3 value tokens, and a number of them. You then can use those tokens to then trigger more actions. So there's kind of a dual layer action selection mechanism within that game that really surprised me at how good it was. Simple, yet deep, and really, really excited about both of those titles. Plus, let's face it, Spielworks and What's Your Game, I dig what they're doing on both of those.
We know it's probably going to be okay.
Right. I mean, there have been exceptions to both rules, right? Not everybody's batting 1,000 here. I get that, but I'm willing to at least investigate. And now, having played prototypes,
especially since we played them, it's definitely higher up on the this is probably going to be pretty good scale.
Definitely. And one nice thing about all these prototypes is we don't normally get to play prototypes at all. We don't have time.
Yeah, no, well, and I'm never anywhere where prototypes are happening. Especially not major designer prototypes that are going to be made.
any prototype that we've played, it's been pretty close to completely finished.
Right. Like, hey, this is coming to Kickstarter.
Right.
Or something
this is
like,
on Kickstarter.
Right, that type thing. So it's going to be kind of a treat for us to be able to see where they are now, which, I mean, we literally in both Primus and Yangtze, we were changing rules on the fly. Like, we would make suggestions, whether it's us, whether it's Paulo, whether it's
whoever,
Lucian or whoever, and they were like, "Oh, that's actually a really good idea." And Uli or Marianne, whoever, they'll be making notes and all this stuff, and they'll be like, "Yeah, you want to implement it?" We're like, "No, we'll keep it because it's been playing it this way." Because even though these are prototypes and playtests, we're still trying to win in these games. So trying to keep the playing field level, but I'm excited to be able to experience, maybe a 50% level prototype and then see how much it's changed. I say badly, but how just drastic the changes are.
I'm excited to see this.
I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, both games very, very high on my list, and both were high on my list to check out while at LeiriaCon, and neither of which disappointed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
So one other prototype that I got to play, also from Tony Boydell, is continuing in his Snowdonia exploits, is a 2-player version that he's calling right now Foothills of Snowdonia. Name's not 100% final, but he seems to be thinking in that area. So like I said, it's a 2-player game, and you're going to be building out trains and tracks and things like that. Just like in Snowdonia. And
shocker.
Yeah. The really cool thing that he's done with Foothills is the way you take actions in the game. And so each player starts the game with 5 cards labeled A, B, C, D, and E. And
original.
Yeah. And so you choose whichever one you want to do the action for. You do the entire action on it, and then you flip it over. And now that action is gone, and it's replaced with something entirely different on the backside. So if you want to come back around to that action, you have to take the action on the back of the card and flip it back over.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and so you have 5 cards that are doing this, and so you're balancing, moving them around, like which ones you're activating and in what order to get your engine to work the way you want it to work. And man, it was good.
Dude, I barely saw it. I saw it at on the table once, fleeting, and I was like, "Oh, hey, that looks like Snowdonia." That alone, that one mechanism right there, has me hooked.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, and so the main side of them, the base side, they're all the same, and so yours and your opponents are identical. The back sides though are different, and there's also off to the side a small set. I think there's 4 of each card, so 4 A's, 4 B's, so on and so forth. And so one of the actions you can do is you can go to the pub and you can swap your A for one of the A's that's available, and then your A now becomes a endgame scoring. Like, so that it has on the back, like this one, if you turn it in, it now scores you 1 extra point for every track you've laid in the game. And you move it over there.
So you can manipulate what the end game goals are along with your opponent can do that.
Yeah, but that's only for you. So you moving that over there means that you will score points for tracks. Okay. Your opponent might have a card that has the same symbol, so now you're both scoring for tracks. They might have something entirely different where they're scoring for every card they put to the side. So they're going to start burning through cards. And there's a neat timing thing, because maybe you have an action on the back that you really like and you want to keep doing, but you also want to make sure you get that scoring icon on that card into your scoring pile.
So at what point do you push it off to the side and get it out of play?
And then you don't have that
stop
action
abusing
anymore.
it, right?
And
this blows me away how these designers come up with this shit.
I have no idea how they do it.
It blows me away.
People ask me somewhat often, like, hey, do you ever want to design a game? Have you ever thought of designing a game? And no.
Yeah,
there's no
I think
part
we're
of
the
me.
only ones for 3 in this room.
But I this was the first time really getting to play a lot of prototypes, and then especially because I was sitting there with the designers. Like playing Foothills, it was like you were saying with the 2 games that you played, Tony would occasionally reach over and he'd be like, that card, that's not right. And he'd pull it out and this is worth this many points now, and change it and put it back. And so the game was evolving as I was playing, and it was really cool getting to have the designer. And if I had a question, it was like, what's this supposed to be? And he'd be like, I didn't think of it that way. Maybe we should do this. And Nick and I were playing, and we ended up breaking the game in that we got stuck in a loop where the game's clock that normally would end it automatically, it couldn't finish, and we didn't necessarily either one want to finish the game. So where we were, if we had let it, it could have went indefinitely.
Oh, wow.
And
Which is awesome feedback, because here's a hole. And kind of to go back what you were talking about, why
With escape
Vital
plan.
was so excited about this, because now that's one less game-breaking situation that might come up down the road, right?
yeah, and he likened it. I was talking to Tony about that. He likened it to the game that has the Halifax Hammer, the broken strategy.
A Few Acres of
Yeah.
Snow.
Yes, and he said that when that was in testing, if they had one time handed that to some CCG players who thought about games in a slightly different way, then they
Not historically based, just, okay, let me just try and abuse stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it would never have happened this way in real life, that
Yeah.
type thing, right?
and so yeah, because if A Few Acres of Snow had not had the Halifax Hammer exploit, then who knows where that would be.
Which,
now.
that said, I've intentionally avoided finding out about that so I can still enjoy the game.
Yeah, I know it exists. I don't know
Right.
what it is.
Right, and then blissful ignorance in
Yeah,
that
I think
respect.
I read what it was once, but I've, of course, forgotten. So,
So what was that one again?
So that was currently being called Foothills of Snowdonia, or Foothills, but name subject to change.
And to be determined on a published time.
Yeah, I don't think he's anywhere super close on it. He's been focusing mainly on a nice cup of tea.
Cool. All right. So that brings us to the game that only I have experience with now. And this is tentatively called Builders of the Pyramid. The name's going to change because the theme's going to change. It's designed by Sophia Wagner, so Noria designer from Essen last year, and likely going to be published by Frosted Games. So Matthias said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to sign the game. So even though he hasn't signed it, he felt pretty good because the feedback that he got from a whole bunch of plays was really positive. The premise of the game is you're building pyramid, and there's a pyramid-shaped grid that you have on your own player board. Well, out in the center between the two players, and it originally was going to be 2 to 4 players, and I was told, and I believe it, it's going to be a 2-player only game, so this is going to go back to that thinky filler aspect, to where it's the downtime with more than 2 players made it just untenable. So at 2 players, there are either 5 or 6 snakes out in the middle between the players, and these snakes, again, just going with the desert, Egyptian theme, they have tiles on them for the length of the snake, starting at the head and working its way down to the tail. And each group or each snake has some mix of different tiles, and these tiles correspond to this other board, and this board has a 3x3 grid on it of different tiles, which those are the tiles that you're going to use to build your pyramid. Well, on those tiles, they're color-coded between red, blue, and I think it was yellow. And the markers that are on the snakes are red, blue, yellow, or a wild, which, you can pick any of them. In addition to that, there are worker tiles that are on the snakes, as well as there's movement and there's traps that you can set as well. So the whole premise, though, is you're going to be getting these tiles. You'll select a snake, and a snake might have anywhere between 3 and, I don't know, it might be 7 or 8 different of these selections on it. And it could be a mix of whatever, between the colors and the traps and the workers and the moving and all that. You say, okay, I'm going to select that snake, and it has, let's say, 5 different things on it. Okay, I'm going to grab these 2 tiles with using those markers, and then I'm going to move my 2 trap makers within my pyramid, and stuff like that. Well, the real cool aspect of this is once you're done with your turn, you select, starting at the head of the snake, all the tiles. So you pile them up on one, and then you redistribute them onto the other snakes into the first available space. So if there's the head and 2 other spots on the next snake are filled, you would start with the 4th one. You place one there, then you go to the next snake and drop one there. So it's very asymmetric as far as how the snakes end up, to where this snake might only have 1 marker on it, this other one might have 6, but this one that has 4 on it that you really, really want, because the color matching matches the tiles that you really want over here to be able to then build in your pyramid. Then the building of the pyramid, there's an entrance in the pyramid. You don't have to follow any kind of, like, you can build in the middle. So they're like, thematically, they're floating. This is part of the reason the theme is going to change. And so but there's a track that you can build, kind of a little maze through there. And within there, there's different things. There's set collection. Like if you get 4 of these things, they'll be worth 25 points. Or if there's a tomb, a pharaoh's tomb in there, the hook there is, I mentioned you get traps. Well, there are certain tiles that have possible traps that you can set on there. And each of these tombs have to have all of the exits around it trapped, which thematically that makes sense, right? But you can make one huge tomb in the middle, and if it only has 4 exits, even though you have 6 king's chambers or pharaoh's chambers, and it only has 4 exits, well, they're all traps, so that works. You make one big glob of it. And then there's other little, there's statues, like if you have 1 for every level, they're worth 5 points each, and for each one. And so it's really a clever little thinky filler in that your trap makers can only move 1 space. So if you have 3 movement and maybe only a yellow and a red tile on your snake, well, you can only take the level 1 red tile, and you can only take the level 1 yellow tile or whatever. You're allowed 4 spaces, kind of as a holding spot for your tiles. You can put those onto your pyramid at any point, but the catch is you only have 4 spots. Well, if you're thinking too far ahead, you need to be able to clear space to be able to get more of those on there, so on and so forth.
Okay.
And it's constantly changing what's available based on what snake your opponent takes, and then he's going to redistribute them, not at random. It's in a set distribution, meaning the head always is the last one to be put down. So, if there's 6 on there, well, the one closest to the end of the tail is going to go to the next one. Then, you just stack them up on top and just drop them off in a circle.
So kind of a Moncala type?
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what it is. I guess that would have saved me a whole lot of explanation. I didn't even think of that, but that's exactly what it is.
But, if people didn't know what a Moncala was, now you've explained it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good. So we're ready for when we talk about trading. All right, cool. So anyway, really, really clever. And Matthias didn't trounce me, but he beat me pretty well in our 1-2 player game of it. And he was like, so what do you think of it? And I gave him some feedback on it. And he was like, yeah, I'm not really super keen on the theme, for the simple fact that, you can't build a pyramid and have the middle of it just floating. He said, thematically, it doesn't make sense. He's thinking about some other ideas. And something popped into my head that is definitely out of the box thinking, but you know me, I like weird, quirky, dark stuff. And he had mentioned like 7 Wonders of the World or something like that. And I was like, well, you're still going to run into the same problem. You can't build something in the middle for some of these things. I said, but if you take something that doesn't have a shape, right, or something that's tangible, you don't have that problem. And when he mentioned seven wonders, I was like, what about the 7 deadly sins? Like, you could play sloth, or you could play gluttony, or you could and it would be like super, super dark. And I said, you can make it as dark or as whimsical as you want it to, depending on what direction you go with the artwork. I said, I don't know what your target audience would be with that. But when I mentioned this to Uli, he said, that sounds awesome, but you're going to limit your audience. Yeah. He said, but that sounds great. I would like a copy of that. So I don't know. I don't think he actually uses that. And I actually talked to him. I said, you don't mind me mentioning this, because I don't think anyone's going to steal the idea, but I think that's really cool. On that note, with the Egyptian theme, they have like the Sphinx. And so they have different shape. They have like different boards that you could build. So it's not just a pyramid. Like one was like really long and skinny, and another was, you know, different Egyptian themes. But I was like, you could name those the different 7 deadly sins. So anyway,
I could see something
but
like
yeah,
that.
so Builders of the Pyramid. I wasn't super enamored with Noria, I'll be honest. I think the main mechanism in Noria is really creative and really original, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
The rest of the game,
Yeah.
kind of. This, however, sign me up 100%. I don't care what the theme is. I like the mechanics of the game. I'm going to want this game. So that's going to be coming from Sophia Wagner and likely Frosted Games. So Matthias had 3 games there.
Yeah, he did. He was doing really well.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
Does that sound interesting to y'all?
Yeah, so I remember seeing, now as you were explaining it, I remembered I didn't play it, but I did walk by when Matthias was teaching Lucian. And Lucian was...
Believe it or not, there were more than 10 people at this convention, I promise, okay? All right, really, there were.
Rachel was there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
But yeah, I thought it looked really interesting. I didn't have the hang up, you know, like what you were saying about placing rooms in weird spaces related to the entrance. Lucian immediately was like, oh yeah, I can build way over here in the corner, way away from the entrance. It doesn't make sense. Which to me, it didn't really bother me. I was just like, oh, well, you're planning your pyramid, so you're planning to build that room.
See, and I feel the same way, but apparently it was a really big deal to some people, so they said they were going to change the theme.
But yeah, it was that's a really hard game, especially with the prototype components. It's really hard to come and like look over somebody's shoulder and understand what's going on. You know, like I was seeing them do things, I was like, I don't fully understand what's going on. So like hearing you explain it, now it makes a lot more sense what I was seeing at the time, and I wish that I had gotten a chance to play that.
I honestly only saw it without anybody playing it, so I've only seen like a piece of paper with a pyramid on it, so I have no idea, but what you said sounds pretty cool.
All right, fair enough. So yeah, Builders of the Pyramid, Sophia Wagner, Frosted Games. So the last one, we're not actually going to really talk about it much because we figure we'd let the designer talk about it, and that's the game that had all Twitter, all a buzz. I tweeted out one little picture of Concordia Venus, and it said partners, and people lost their minds on this over that. I was like, wow, really? That legitimately surprised me because I knew Concordia was, you know, fairly popular, but not that popular, I didn't think.
I feel like it's just getting more and more popular. Like I overheard Matt Gerdts, the designer, talking about how the expansion maps, like they're going as fast as he can make them. Like
it's a good problem to have,
right?
So on that note, none of us here got a chance to play Concordia Venus. Nope. However, after the convention ended, at dinner, I was like, hey Mac, because that's what you do. You say, hey Mac. I said, hey, would you mind taking a couple minutes and sitting down and going over Concordia Venus? And he said, yeah, sure, let's do it. He said it a lot more formal because Matt Gerdts is a lot more formal. But yeah, super friendly. And you know what? Here, this is me and Mac sitting down after the convention ended and him describing something that I was not at all interested in once I heard about partners to, oh my God, I want a copy of this right now.
Hey y'all, it's the end of LeiriaCon 2018. It is, let's see, 10:30 at night on Sunday night. We are down to 2 tables. It's me here and happy to be joined by Matt Gerdts. So Mac, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah.
So all the buzz, you made the entire board game universe, it seemed, all a buzz because you were going to show off you have Concordia Venus. And without dropping much info, just, oh yeah, here's a thing that's going to be at LeiriaCon. So, yeah, talk about that. Tell us about it.
I just dropped an information about Concordia Venus to be presented at LeiriaCon here in Portugal for the first time in public. The thing is, we were thinking of how to make this game playable with 6. And we wanted to add a 6th color, here so that it can be played by 6 players. Obviously, with 6 players, it is a long game. Already Concordia with 5 is a bit on the longer side.
Right.
So 6 is even more. So I decided to make a new variant where we have partnerships. So with 6 players, always 2 partners work together, so that there are 3 parties playing against each other.
So it's essentially 3 teams of players.
It's 3 teams. You can play it with 2 teams, 2 against 2 as well, but it is 3 teams. And if I, as a member of my team, play any card, let's say I play the Mercator.
Yep.
Yeah, the Mercator. Then I execute the action Mercator, and immediately after that, my partner executes the Mercator action.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
So, and then the next player, in clockwise order, makes his turn, and his partner makes his turn.
So there's always 2 turns essentially going, not at the same time, but one right after the other, doing the action of one player's cards.
Yeah, so you don't have to wait for 5 turns until it's your turn again if you play with 6. It's only you do it every 3rd turn, it's yours.
That makes sense, because you play, 2 other players play, then your partner plays, which means you play.
Yeah, but it's not the only thing about it, because now, if I choose my card, I have to look at the opportunities which my partner has. So I have to think for him. With my action, I have to think for me and for him. Our scores are added together at the end of the game.
All right. So what if one player was short the cost for building, so on and so forth? Do you share resources as well?
Oh, there's one new card where you can share money.
Okay.
At least some money. It is not a complete shared economy, otherwise it would be a little bit boring, but we have a new Legatus card. If I play the Legatus card, yeah, I ask my partner to play a card for the 2 of us.
So there's no table talk, though, as far as playing cards?
We are not sure about that. We have tested it several times, and there were always table talk at different degrees, because it's simply impossible not to community in one way.
Right, you're not going to play the game completely mute, right?
Finally, the group has decided upon which level of table talk it will allow. But I think it is not bad if you have some table talk about the possibilities which you have, because it helps you to analyze the game much deeper together with your partner. So I play the Legatus, and now my partner has to play a card for both of us, for the 2 of us. And if I play the Legatus, this partner card, yeah, we can share the money. So if he is short of money and has not enough money to pay his things, he can use my money as well. Or the other way around. If I do execute the action which he does for me, and I do not have enough money, I can use his money as well.
And you want to be able to share that for the simple fact that, again, the scores are additive.
There should be one instance where we can share at least the money. To share the resources would be too much. Because the restrictions of building up the economy with the resources are one of the interesting features of the game.
Okay, on that note, how does that affect the Tribune card, the one where you can actually pull your cards back into your hand? If your partner plays that, you also get to do the exact same thing. So it's universal. Whatever they play, you get to piggyback and vice versa.
And if I play my Diplomat to copy an architect from somewhere, he as well does the architect action.
Very cool, very cool. All right.
And if I don't have any Legatus anymore and want my partner plays a card, I play a Diplomat, copy a Legatus from someone else, and my partner can play a card.
Oh, that's a clever iteration of that. I like that.
So
it adds a whole nother layer there.
Yeah, another layer. But you are forced to think about the joint efforts of you and your partner, and everyone has to do it, and you are involved frequently much more frequently than in an ordinary 5 or 6 player game.
And that cuts down the playtime.
That not necessarily cuts down the playtime, but it cuts down the
downtime.
The downtime.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So when can folks expect this? Is this Essen this year?
I should tell you something more.
Oh, please.
Because along with the legatos, we have a new goddess. We have a new god, the Venus. Yeah?
Hence the name of the expansion, right?
Yes, hence the name of the expansion. Venus is the goddess, about
of love and
coming together,
sure.
things like that. So I think this is a good name for things in the partnership. So for the Venus card, you get points for every province where the two of you, where both partners have at least one city. So this is an incentive to come together in the provinces.
I dig that. All right. Now, how does Venus work with the expansion maps? Is it universal?
It's universal for every map.
Nice. So
it's universal for every map. Another thing we will add, we are testing, is that we have a different setup now. Each player can choose a city where to start. And in his starting city, he puts down a house and his 2 colonists, and he starts from there. And any player can start from any place on the board.
Huh.
And your partner, the starting player gets 5, the second player gets 6 money,
right,
7,
right,
so
sure.
the partner gets as much money as is the distance between the 2 cities. Because if they are joined together, it's better for them.
Okay.
If they're far apart, they need more time to come together. So if my partner goes here, this is the distance 1, 2, 3, 4, he starts with 4 money. He would start with 5 money, he with 3 money.
Huh.
And you immediately pay for the city where you start. This means you don't necessarily start with an architect action because you already have a city built somewhere.
Ah.
So
wow, this is adding quite a bit of layers.
More interesting possibilities to start the game.
Variable setup that introduces, which is it brings the older maps back to life. And not that they got stale, but the fact that that added variability that they now have just brings a whole nother dimension that they didn't have to begin with.
Now we not only have a variable setup in the layout of the cities, but also a variable setup in the starting cities.
Yep, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you have more Venus cards which you can buy.
Right, sure, that get added into the actual deck for the conveyor that comes out.
In exchange for the normal prefect, we get the prefect architect action. In exchange for so it's the same number of cards, but some cards are exchanged, they cost the same, but they have some more Venus goddesses on it.
For endgame scoring, right?
Yeah. Of course, the Venus score is less than the Saturn, because it's not for every province.
It's only for where
the joint
you share
provinces.
It. Right.
But the cards are much better because they're combined cards.
Because they give you, it's essentially 2 actions, right?
I can play this card.
Right, the prefect architect, right?
And I can say, I prefect and you architect, or I architect and you prefect. Gives you much more flexibility.
You can't share the same action. Right. Okay.
Yeah. But it gives you more flexibility, of course.
Wow. Okay.
Because sometimes you are out of sync with your partner.
Right. And that allows you to, like you said, more flexibility.
If you gain points for yourself, every score is counted individually. If you acquire a new province, for example, it scores for you, only for you. But if you share a new province, it gives points for both of you, for both of your Venus cards. So it's not necessarily a bad fact that the Venus gives less points. If you achieve on Venus, you achieve for both players.
Right.
All other things you achieve privately for yourself. The Venus you achieve for both.
So yeah, it definitely makes it to where you have to play a second game, essentially. You're not only playing your game, but you're playing your partner's game to try and get a symbiotic relationship going to maximize
you
it.
You have to spot the synergies, and you have to make the game out of the synergies and the possibilities that it's even more thinky than the normal.
You say that like, it's just a little bit more. It sounds considerably more.
Yes.
That's
it is a challenge, but it's a lot of fun.
How long has this been brewing in your head?
A few months.
Oh, that's it? Okay. All right.
In our heads. We are a team, yeah.
So
we are also thinking of making the Venus cards playable in the normal game. So
how would that work?
For example, a 5-player or a 3-player game.
Right. How would that work with odd numbers?
With odd numbers, yes.
Right, yeah.
With odd numbers. Everyone plays for himself, like usual. If he takes this card, he can choose whatever action he wants to do.
Oh, so those double action cards, the Venus cards, the Prefect, Architect, or the Architect,
you get
Mercator.
points for every province where you have at least 2 houses.
Ah, okay.
Sometimes, how do I explain? You have, here in Spain, you have 1 brick city and 2 other cities. You are already in another city. In the normal game, it makes no sense for you to buy additionally the brick city in the same province, because it does not score on Jupiter and it does not score on Saturn for you.
Right.
Yeah. But it does score on Venus because it's for 2 cities in the same province.
Okay, so it gives you a reason to double up there, whereas normally in the base game you would have no reason to do so.
Yeah. Now you get some points even for that.
Okay. All right.
So it would. That's for change. No?
So in the odd number of players, then it takes the partnerships out.
You can take out the partnership in even number of players as well.
Nice.
You can do it if you want.
Okay.
But we are still working on that. This is not the final thing, you know.
Sure, understood.
Yeah. So together with that, we offer the new cards. We offer a new player color. The 6-player color necessarily has to be added, so you can play it in the 6-player normal way. And, of course, we want to offer you some new maps together with that.
Well, I'm sure everybody would be disappointed. Yeah. It's a new year, ergo, it's got to have a new Concordia map, right? So I don't know, I haven't seen any new map. Any idea, do you want to let the cat out of the bag, or is that still secret?
No, we have not decided.
Okay, all right.
We are still working on that.
All right.
Yeah, so I will surprise you one day.
Fair enough. Do you have a time frame that you're looking at for dropping Venus?
Our aim is Essen, as always.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we could talk in Essen.
Yeah, I absolutely.
Hopefully.
I plan on that. That would be great. All right.
We also found that we run with a 6-player. We
ran low on
the resources were a bit short, so perhaps we should add some more resources. But that's fine-tuning, which has to be done.
So is the Venus expansion going to be separate from the map, or is it going to be all in one? Or is that still to be determined?
You can use the Venus expansion with any map.
I'm saying when it releases at Essen, or provided it's at Essen, when it does release, is it going to be Venus by itself, and then you could buy the map separate, or is that to be determined?
We have to use a box.
Okay.
Because we have the
6-player
power. So we have a box, we have new cards in the box. So why not put a new map into the box?
Fair enough.
And perhaps some more ideas which may come up until then.
Okay, that sounds awesome.
So,
I'm excited to hear it.
Our idea is to give you another box.
Okay.
So any box is welcome to store all the expansions.
And
for the ones who didn't buy the Salsa expansion.
I imagine people are going to be excited, and it's going to sound silly, but people are going to legitimately be excited that finally I get another box to be able to store my maps in.
Yeah.
Because if they're anything like me, who I don't have Salsa yet, I have shelf space allocated. Map. So very nice. Yeah. Cool. You excited about it?
Of course.
Well,
I'm always excited about designing.
Awesome. All right. Well, I appreciate the heads up.
We played it. We played it many times here in LeiriaCon, and it was well received.
I imagine it would. I'm really excited. I'll be honest, when I first heard about the partner action, I was like, it sounds co-op. But now, having heard all of this, now I've completely flipped a 180 to where now I'm like, oh, this sounds fantastic. I'm upset that I have to wait until October.
It's co-op inside your team, but it's competitive between the teams.
Right, that's perfect. That sounds ideal. And the fact that it cuts down downtime is a win across the board.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Matt.
So 6 players now may join to play Concordia together in the future.
Good stuff. Well, thank you, Mac. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
We'll talk again in Essen.
Yeah, hope so.
All right, take care.
Okay. Ciao.
So yeah, that sounded pretty cool to me. I'm super stoked, and I was really bummed I couldn't take Concordia Venus home with me.
Right. I spent no small amount of time on Saturday, like constantly meerkatting, like looking around, like where's Mac? Where's Mac? Like it was sitting there set up in the middle of the room, and I was like, as soon as I see him, I'm gonna be like, hey, I want to play this.
And all I can see in my head now is Adrian just head popping up.
Yep, that's exactly what I see.
And furtive glances left and right.
That was basically what was happening for a good chunk of the day Saturday.
That's awesome. But yeah, so I saw it getting played a number of times, and I heard from people that they really enjoyed it. And it's still, as you guys heard, Max said they're still testing, and tweaking here and there. But Essen plus a new map to go with it, with the 6 players. 6-player Concordia sounded like nails across a chalkboard to me until the partner thing actually made it make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, sign me up. I cannot wait. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely really excited for that as well.
So that's it. That's a lot of games, y'all.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's a long episode. So hopefully folks enjoyed it. A lot of these actually, I'm going through the list, like Revolution 1828, Yangtze Primus, or
Primos.
Builders of the Pyramid. None of those even have BGG entries right now. So think of this as the epitome of really, really first looks of these games coming up. And yeah, so that was kind of our goal when we went to this. Was we wanted to really focus on prototypes to be able to report back to y'all and give you guys first looks and tell you, maybe not, or, oh yeah, keep an eye out for this. And I'm not going to say that we failed, because I think that's 9 prototypes we played, but we failed in an aspect of none of these suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had very
Sorry,
good luck.
Y'all.
Yeah. Sorry that we gave you more games that you want to buy and play.
Oh, darn. There's a lot of really good board games being made.
Right. Oh, we all have crosses we must bear.
It's interesting for me that you guys went there to do prototypes, because that was something that caught me completely off guard about this convention, was how many prototypes were there and how many other designers and things. I was picturing this as more like a Geekway or a Heavy Con, just with Portuguese gamers. So I was shocked. Holy, Marcus and Inca are there. Uli's there. Matthias.
Oh, it was still super cool to us. Don't get me wrong, but we knew that there were going to be a bunch of prototypes.
Yeah, I thought I was just getting you to play games because I kept seeing them pop up on the LeiriaCon Facebook and stuff. Ooh, Matt Gerdts is coming. Ooh, this. And it's wow, there's going to be a lot of cool people there. I didn't realize it was going to be so much demoing and play testing.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, because it was true. So here's the interesting thing here is you had said that the Spiel Portugal fellas said there were about 600 folks thereabouts, between 400 and 600, let's call it, right? I would say 90+% of these people didn't play any prototypes.
Mm-hmm.
No.
They played games.
And it was like a Geekway or a BGG Con or a Heavy Con, to where they just went to play games with people. It just so happened that because we went there to play prototypes, to be able to report back to folks, we kind of rolled in the same circle with a whole bunch of people, whether it's Bruno and Paulo and Lucian and Tudor and Adrian and all, kind of a smaller circle subset of gamers. But the vast majority never touched a prototype. They were playing Panamax, and they were playing
18CZ.
Yeah, 18CZ got played, and yeah, there was all kinds of. There was far more published games getting played than prototypes.
Yes.
It's just that was our experience
Yeah.
of the convention.
Yeah, I'd say those two upper rooms, I occasionally went up there to like check them out, and they were almost always just published games wall to wall.
I saw a Memoir 44 Operation Overlord, which is that massive one of that. First saw that getting played at Origins last year, and that was really cool. And seeing that there, I don't know why that's so cool to me to see these, you know, kind of American-based games, seeing them getting played over in Europe. I think that's just really, really cool to me. And then they played Mega Civ. They had a big game of Mega Civ on
I
Saturday.
didn't see that. That's awesome.
But yeah, there was, I mean, Gaia Project. There's all these.
Everything. Yeah, everything was. Most of the convention was like your Thursday. You know, like your game. Just about everybody else's experience was like yours on Thursday.
Oh, right, to where it was all published games and stuff. Yeah, totally.
I thought it was also very interesting that in that main room where we did most of our gaming, or at least where I did most of mine, for a good chunk of the day, I believe it was Friday, 18CZ was right inside the door. So every time I came in, it was like, oh, how's CZ going?
Right? How's it? And it was funny watching the ebb and flow of everyone's all really excited, and then all of a sudden, trains started rusting and mistakes were realized. And, so
then they
was
had
pretty...
to go eat lunch, and then they came back and they were happy again.
So on that note, that's something else I wanted to talk about before we sign off here. Was another cool aspect was the fact that people took time to eat at these conventions. And I don't mean nourishment eating necessarily. It was playing with strangers who became friends, sharing a game. Like maybe halfway through a game, they just break. They go over, they have the buffet, and they spent time getting to know one another and spent time hanging out. And it was less about running back to go play more games and got to get in as many games as we can get in. And it was more about just sharing the love of the hobby and the shared experience over a meal or a glass of wine, or things had a more leisurely pace. Not to say that they enjoyed it any less, or it was, you know, if that's your thing, not to do that. I just appreciated that kind of slower pace of things just a little bit.
It felt like that hierarchy that you talked about towards the beginning of the episode of food, or people, food, wine, games. Everybody had that same hierarchy.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'd take a break from a game and you'd go sit down and you'd have a couple glasses of wine, have a big bunch of food with the buffet, and then sit and chat. You know, it wasn't even like I'm finished with my food, let's get back to the game. It was like, no, we're enjoying ourselves, we're relaxed, we're in Portugal, for crying out loud.
Seriously, overlooking the ocean, watching the waves crash because the wind was kicking up and everything. It was awesome. Just a fantastic experience. And it was funny. One of the guys from Spiel Portugal, at the end of the night, like literally 15 minutes before we're leaving, and Andre's about to drive us to the airport, and he's like, okay, I may be drunk, so take that into consideration. He said, but where would this rank? I said, what? He said, the convention. And I said, to be honest with you, I'd put this up there with HeavyCon, and arguably maybe a step above HeavyCon, because HeavyCon's in Denver, and this is Portugal.
Well, and then when you're running HeavyCon, you're running a convention. You've got all that other stuff going on. You're not...
Right. I'm not just there as you know, a person, as a con goer. But no, for just laid back, plus, okay, let's take being in Portugal out of the equation, right? It was just thoroughly enjoyable. Just really, really laid back, and all about hanging out with people, good people, enjoying good times, playing games, eating good food, drinking good wine. Yeah. Sign me up.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, I'd say for me, the only the fact that it's in Portugal and flights can be expensive.
Yeah, that was the most expensive flight we've taken to date since we've had the show. Yes,
that's the only reason that I wouldn't say that I will always be at this con.
Yep, like I'll buy that.
But I'm going to try and go pretty freaking regularly. Like it was a great con. It's easily right up there with HeavyCon and Geekway, which are my two other favorites here stateside, because those are cons where I play a lot of games. Like Geekway is still like one of my top 10 most logged locations from one visit.
Wow.
Dang.
You know, and I played heavy games at Geekway, and then I came and played heavy games the next weekend at HeavyCon because I'm crazy. But this ranks right up there with all of them. It was a ton of fun, so many great people, and yeah, loved it.
Yep. We're hoping to go back next year, you know, provided everything plays out right, but that's definitely in the plans because it was that good of an experience.
Yep. Yes.
And hopefully, fellas, if you're listening, I expect the weather to be better.
Come on, guys. You have a year.
Seriously, make it happen, all right?
Plan better.
Please.
Cool. All right, so you guys know how to get in touch with us, heavycardboard.com, et cetera, et cetera. Adrian?
MileHighGameGuys.com. We just launched the new website. Still a work in progress, but it's getting there.
I heard about the RSS feed
Yeah,
debacle.
we broke RSS
Sorry
feed.
about that.
Yeah. still fixing it.
It happens.
Yeah.
All right, so Adrian, thanks for
thank you so
being
much.
a part of this, right? Making the effort to come out here tonight. And also, that was a hell of a good time, dude. But it's still really funny that we went halfway around the world and ended up playing a bunch of games with you.
Yeah.
Take that the right way, but you know what I mean.
I don't understand that. Yeah, like, sure, but we still had fun. I don't understand why everybody's always like, well, what'd you do that for?
No, it's awesome. And we actually met a lot of fans of the show.
We did.
There. We met patrons there. That was cool. We met a couple from Spain, from the north of Spain. And it was cool. They were playing Lignum. And afterwards, they said, you were right. This is very good. We just went and bought it. So I took their picture and I texted that to Clay to show him because I figured out. And he was like, that's awesome. So, yeah, it was just an awesome time. Well done, Spiel Portugal, and everybody else involved with that. We look forward to seeing you all again next year. Nuno, Paulo, you're on the hook for next year. Don't Welsh, fellas. Don't Welsh on it.
Yeah. No, and I want to say, thank you, Edward, Amanda, for introducing me to so many of these people out there. You know, introducing me to Nuno and Paulo and everybody, and you know, getting me involved with that stuff out there. I was a little nervous first heading out there. It was like the only people I'm going to know are Edward and Amanda, and
now you are the ambassador
of board gaming. Yeah,
and you shared a moment with Tony Boydell.
Oh God, that picture! Oh my gosh.
Yes, very intimate moment with Tony Boydell, and many late nights with Nuno and Paulo and Mariano and Veronica and Marcus and Inca and all these names that I see on boxes that now are friends.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's great.
So hey, of course, anytime, and I mean, it was like that for us too, and it still is. And that's the thing. Like, it's still a little surreal to me that we get to call these people friends. But at the same time, we also have a mutual respect for one another to where they understand our position within the hobby, and they understand ours, we understand theirs, and they understand that, yes, we are friends, but you know what? We're still going to hammer you when it calls for it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's at the point now to where if we did not call them out on things, then they would be like, what? We know that was bad. What are you doing?
Right. So, yeah, we're still not willing to compromise our integrity.
Nope.
And they know that and they respect that. And you know what? That strengthens the friendship.
Yep.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, good stuff. All right. So, that's a long one in the books. We will be back in 2 weeks, y'all, because next week it's nothing but daily diaries from me from Gamma Trade Show. So if there's somebody you want to hear from while we're there,
let us know.
Let us know, and I'll try and make it happen. All right?
Right on.
So, Adrian, thanks again, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Good job, Amanda.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun, and we all made it home safe, so well done, y'all.
Whoop, whoop.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.